I think we're live now.
Yep.
So I'm just gonna check it on my side because YouTube can be funny. But how have you guys been?
Good. I'm excited for this.
I know.
Yeah.
I've had no one to talk about it with, so I'm like, I need to talk to people about my thoughts.
I've talked a little bit about it, but I didn't go super in depth in it because I've been just come join the live. It's just that's where we're really gonna talk about it.
Yeah, I've been scared to talk about it. I'm like, if I say wrong thing, someone's gonna come for me.
I feel like the fandom has gotten more toxic since.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Let's just tell me about it. You tell me about it.
Well, and the announcement yesterday didn't.
Oh my god.
Ooh, I know. But I'm excited as well. Me scouring every audition website. I'm like, I need to know.
I know.
I would be so excited to see TikTok cosplayers cast. I feel like we deserve it.
That would be wild.
Many thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a nightmare last night where it was announced for some reason Shailene Woodley was the Feyre, and I was like,
no.
I was just like, I'm here.
Hi.
I literally had my dream, and I was like, oh my gosh, thank goodness that was a dream.
There's apparently a theory about I don't know the actress's name. I think it's Danielle. But after the announcement, she followed Sarah and then liked the announcement post. So obviously only speculation, but that was just interesting.
I will be interested to see who plays who and what is done because it's Hulu making it, but Disney owns Hulu, so then they have a share in it. I know that.
Yeah.
And I know that Beth was mentioning yesterday that because it's Disney, it's going to be more PG. So I am excited to see how they are going to change up certain scenes.
Right.
And the conversations too. It's really going to impact a lot if it's going to be made PG.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know because Disney owns so many things that aren't PG. They own ABC, so
right.
And they own
my question is, yeah, she tagged Disney, but I don't. How do people know Hulu's doing it, and not just
Yeah, I saw an announcement that Hulu was doing
announcements. Yeah,
but I don't know.
From Sarah? Question mark.
Let's see.
I don't remember who.
I know that there were a few articles on it that explained it a bit more in depth. I saw a few people post it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be on the streaming platform of Hulu.
Yeah, it says that it's going to be on Hulu.
But Disney owns Hulu or part of Hulu or something like that.
Yeah,
the only reason,
that makes sense.
Yeah, I just know that because they do the package with ESPN too.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, I have a monster underneath my door. If you hear scratching at my door, it's just my French bulldog. But yeah, I'm interested to see who is gonna play who and what are we gonna get, because on one side people don't like the Looking for Alaska remake, but I loved Looking for Alaska remake. It's sobbed at 3 a.m. waiting for Midnight Sun's announcement. But they've also made The Handmaid's Tale. So, and if it's the person who's making Outlander, that is not PG in any sense of the form. And I love Outlander, so I'm excited for that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Ron Moore he's done so many science fiction things. He's done a bunch of Star Trek stuff as well, and Battlestar Galactica. So I thought that was an incredibly interesting choice to bring him on.
Yeah, because we'll get to see the battle scenes might be more not futuristic, but fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
interesting to see two creative people interact with this work. There'll definitely be different perceptions of it, and I'm excited to definitely see it. But I do hope that they do fix some of the problems that we've been talking about in the book.
Yes,
I think that's a big thing. Is this is a second shot almost to right a lot of wrongs. Does that make any sense?
Yeah,
yes.
Completely.
Yes, yeah.
And I think that there's more people involved with it, because the more people that are involved, the more likely you are to have a discussion and notice these things. When it's, you and you're writing yourself, you don't realize these things. There's no one to be what you're writing is not really sensitive.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how they play it because is Sarah a producer or like a writer? Like,
it
is she
did
on
say
the
she
board?
is in the article that I just read. It did say she's an executive producer along with who else? A couple other people. Along with Ron Moore, the Outlander guy, and Meryl Davis.
That sounds really familiar of a name. I just don't know where it's from.
I will look it up.
Yeah, I know. So I know that like books, when most authors sell their stuff, they don't put in that they're going to be like a writer or a producer. I know this happened with Marissa Meyer, who sold Cinder to, I actually think it was to Hulu, is who she sold it to, or maybe it was Fox, and they've done nothing with it. I think it goes out to auction again now, like she gets the rights back, but she didn't have rights for like 5 years of this TV show because like the film rights and stuff, because they owned it, and so she can't sell it off to someone else who's interested in it. So I think I always knew that Sarah would be smart about it in selling her like film rights, just because she seems like that type of person who wants to be involved. Right. But that's what happened with like Cassandra Clare and the Shadowhunter stuff. She's very not like, she doesn't like where it went because she was on the writer's board.
Yeah.
But
and I think too with Marissa Meyer, she recently, I think last year was when she re-released all of them with the new covers. Mm-hmm. So I think the reason that she did that is because she's planning to do something with the rights, and so she's trying to like be like, it's back.
Yeah, and I think a lot of authors have learned from that. When you sell your rights, there's only certain movies that have like done well, one super well, or two have not been trashed by the critics. Darkest Minds comes to mind to me. I love the books and I love the movies, and
this is the first time I'm hearing about it.
The critics like tanked it, and I went on like an Instagram rant and was like, "It's so good, like I don't know what they're talking about." And Alexander Bracken was like, "Thank you." Like the critics are really harsh on it, and I was like, "That's because they're comparing it to like Twilight, and it's not Twilight."
Yeah,
everything's compared to like things that came beforehand. And you can only have so many Hunger Games, so
that is true.
That we have left that era behind. I'm glad that's behind.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I think with ACOTAR, it's so we had like, I think each generation had like the big movie books, right? So like Harry Potter and Twilight, and then the Hunger Games, and I think ACOTAR is going to be that for this new generation of readers. Yes. So that will also be very interesting, especially since it's in TV format and not film.
Yes. Which I think it needs to be in TV format.
I actually think that it'll be better, hopefully, in TV versus movie.
Mm-hmm. I think most books should be in TV.
There's just so much to cover.
There's
so much to cover.
And also, like, usually the first movie might not do well, so they're not going to get funding for a second movie. And like ACOTAR, the first book is the weakest. Unless the fandom is like buying out those tickets, it wouldn't make enough probably for a second movie.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Because that's with Vampire Academy. Like, Vampire Academy got dropped because it didn't make enough money.
I'm a sucker for Vampire Academy.
I love Vampire Academy so much.
Oh, man, I love
I know that Rochelle Maid was really upset about it, too, because she still hasn't gotten her rights back. Mm-hmm. And she wasn't involved in the process at all. She was literally on cast for maybe like 2 days in total.
Yeah. I've heard that, too.
In that same article that I read, it said Sarah was also, Sarah and Ron are writing it. So she's apparently going to be involved in the actual like writing of the show. Yeah. And she's an executive producer. So that it gives me a lot of hope, because we saw stuff like the Percy Jackson series where we know for a fact that Rick was not involved at all, and they like actively worked not to involve him, and they flopped.
And now that's coming out with something new where he is involved. Yeah. And this producer, writer, the Ron guy who did Outlander, Diana Gabaldon is a executive producer on the Outlander series. She talks very openly when you go to her events, and she is very involved. She was involved in casting, so I think this person who is running the show, like for Sarah, is going to be very much in wanting her opinions, which is a good thing. And I think producers should want that. I never understand why they don't look towards the audience that they're trying to market to.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I want it to be good. I don't want it to flop.
Yeah.
It makes me so nervous, but it also makes me excited that if this one does do well, maybe we could get her other books. I will like lose my mind if Throne of Glass becomes something.
We have been waiting for World of Throne of Glass for 5 years.
I think that one, I think ACOTAR is a good starting point because although it is very fantasy based, it does have a lot of real world kind of elements you can like feel on, whereas Throne of Glass is like, hi, we're in a fantasy world.
Yes.
So
and I think Throne of Glass is like her Harry Potter series. You know what I mean? It's like her big world building, like plot extravaganza, and ACOTAR is kind of what was left over in her brain.
Yeah. I definitely think that. And I mean, I don't know how, like, the worlds all kind of joined together in her. She says they don't, but I'm like, this is a lie.
The multiverse theory.
Yeah.
And it's like her world building is very similar in all of her books. Like, it's not just the fact that she writes about Fae, but there's definitely lots of crossovers.
Yes.
Yes. Which I think is a good thing because you get used to her writing. Like, I read ACOTAR, and then I read all of Throne of Glass. I haven't read Bryce's book yet. I'm scared to read that. But I read them all, and I was like, wow, I love Sarah J. Maas and her writing because of her world building, and it just feels so grounded. Yeah. Sorry, I'm reading some of the comments.
Yeah.
No, you're good. Is there any way for us to see the chat?
I can see it. Right. Okay.
Oh,
On the side it says comments.
Yeah.
I'm seeing TikTok.
Oh, there we go.
So I'm also the Barnes & Noble comment about having ACOTAR and Shadow and Bone on read it before you watch it shelf. I don't know if that necessarily means that we're going to get something. I worked at Barnes & Noble. We usually just pair books that are similar to fill the shelf. I know, like, there'd be like an empty hole, and I'd be like, oh, this one works, and just stick that in there. But because it is going into that, maybe they want everyone to get into like Sarah's work again who haven't. But with the TV show coming out, I always get nervous because like I am, as a bookseller, was very cautious of being like, these books, the Throne of Glass books, are good and they have like some spice in them, but do not read these ACOTAR books if you were like 13. Like, I'd be like with moms and being like, if you don't want her to read this, I would suggest waiting. But now it's going to be like a full storm of like people, just like young kids. I'm like, oh my gosh.
That's true.
A Court of Silver Flames is not appropriate.
Well, and that's what makes it so I don't want to say scary, but like
it is
really went
scary.
From like, I mean,
I'm scared.
PG to like borderline erotica.
I know. I was at work listening to the audiobook and I was like, oh, this is what we're doing now. Okay.
Yeah, right. So like when we get to this, into translating it to the screen, I wonder if they're going to tone down Silver Flames to make everything like even across the board, or if they're going to do the opposite and make everything just very explicit.
I feel like they toned down Silver Flames, which honestly,
it needs to be
mad about.
Like, okay, no, don't get me wrong. I've been reading Wattpad since I was literally but I was like, I don't know if this is the book for it. I was just like, I don't know. Which, I mean, we'll talk about it today, but it's so funny because Steph, which is like Sarah J. Maas's friend who does lives with her, I mean, she describes the series as fairy porn.
Oh, that's like a joke on Twitter now. Like,
it's like even her friend describes it using that, and like she has talked about it with Sarah online. Like, Sarah knows that that's how we describe it.
Sorry, my camera's being weird. Okay, we're good.
Yeah, I like when she was like, oh, this is my like dirtiest book I've written. I was like, oh, Sarah, like, I'm sure. And then I opened it and I was like, Oh,
That's what you
the
meant.
headboard. Oh, okay. This is where we're going now.
Okay, I am interested that the comments are talking about Tamlin.
Oh yeah.
Do you guys think he
I
might
think we
get
should
Mars?
let them. I think we should let them and be like, oh yeah.
Oh, Tamlin, he's the best. We love him. Oh my god, yes.
Yeah.
But the TV show might do it differently. They might make it so that you can see the red flags very, very clearly.
Which is something I think I would really love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the opportunities that she has to fix the wrongs.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, I
Is to
agree.
be like, red flag, danger, danger, you know.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, someone was like,
Trigger Moss likes to be sly in all of her books. Like, she'll hit you with the plot twist that the first love interest didn't work out. But I also like it when they show that the relationship is. But I don't know. I honestly don't really remember the first book that much. I have never reread it. And I read this like 3 years ago. So I don't really remember that much from it.
yeah, I just recently actually I re-listened to the audiobook, and I've always said Tamlin is one of my favorite characters in the series because he's so complicated. And he's such an interesting character from a writer's perspective that like I can see from Tamlin's point of view very clearly where his mindset was.
Yeah.
And like the point of like, here's Tamlin, here's Reese. Reese could have very easily fallen into Tamlin's storyline of being Tamlin. So I always find it just Reese had the inner circle and all of those people to hold him, but Tamlin didn't. He had Lucian, who literally is a young man.
Yeah.
I love Lucian, but at the same time, I'm like, and he's stuck in like the spring. So it's like, I will be very interested to see how they play that because I think they're going to make us love Lucian and then destroy us. And I'm ready for that. I'm like, please destroy me. Because I recently rewatched like my book talk, like reading, and I was like in love with Tamlin. Loved him. And then the second book came and I was like, oh, like I see it, but I also see his character where it's going.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I feel too like I guess when I was reading it personally, I felt like the second book, I was kind of like taken aback. Like it felt very sudden. His shift.
It did.
So I hope maybe too that they'll kind of smooth that out because it felt very sudden for him to just be like, and now you're a housewife.
Yeah, and so yeah, the transition was very sudden because a lot of people were like, this doesn't feel like Tamlin at all. And if we had more red flags on the first book, it would have probably made more sense because this wasn't something that anyone really saw coming. But to be fair, I stopped liking Tamlin underneath the mountain, but it wasn't like enough to me where I'm like, okay, he's like a huge, huge red flag.
Yeah.
yeah, I was back and forth with Tamlin because I could see where he was coming from. And maybe this is just me reading very much. I read like a writer. So I've noticed that. And when I read books, I just like fall into characters. And I'm like, well, like, here is my giant spreadboard. I'm like, here's where Tamlin went wrong. And I can't, like, even in Silver Flames, I couldn't be fully angry with Tamlin because I am also not fully angry with Reese. And Reese has done things that I'm like, me and him would fight.
Yeah.
I've always said, like, Reese is not, like, I love Feyre and Reese. I love them. But me and Reese, we would not be mates. We would be like siblings, just like fighting it out. Yeah. I can't.
I feel like Tamlin being an Akasif I feel like even if he doesn't get a redemption arc, I feel like by the end of the series, he'll be at a place of contentment where he's kind of like rebuilding his courts. But I also don't like that he has let his court fall apart. Like, yes, you're going through some stuff, but you also have responsibilities as a High Lord to your people. Right?
Yeah,
I'm like, just like, like if you were just like yourself, let this wreck you. But like you have people at a court to look after.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of theories that maybe Tamlin, like the court is falling apart because of something underlying. And I'm really interested to see that because Tamlin always really cared about his court, even before like Feyre and everything. So it's very out of character for him to do this, no matter where he was, because even when Feyre wasn't there, he cared about his court. So I'm interested to see if there's something in spring that is just like brewing under like underneath it all.
Yeah.
Because when he was inactive, I was like, this doesn't feel like Tamlin, and he would never have let his court fall apart like this.
Yeah, I was just like, you have responsibilities. You have big responsibilities to your people. So
I felt like,
too.
Yeah, I felt like he, even before reading it, I felt like he was going to be a key to something, and he could be down the line. And we've just like demolished all like ties with him. Like Reese has just like destroyed him so much. He's like, I don't want to hang out. Like I don't want to help you guys.
Yeah. But it's also like Reese has been apparently like seeing Tamlin, like which is what we don't know. But actually, he's been trying to help Tamlin.
But you like went and kicked him in the head, pretty much.
Yeah, like I don't know what happened, like when he made this transition to where he started helping Tamlin. But the reason why Reese would help Tamlin is because they need his court, right, for the upcoming war.
Yeah.
So that'd be interesting. And it seems to me like Elaine is somehow entangled in it because Nesta makes a very specific point about how Elaine would love Spring Court when Nesta sees it for the first time. And I'm like, that's foreshadowing. The fact that she thought that, I'm like, that's foreshadowing, right?
I think that Lucian and Elaine are gonna, I think Lucian's gonna end up being the High Lord of Spring. Mm-hmm. I really do. Because he has, they're never going to let him be High Lord of Autumn. And Elaine does not fit in the Night Court. She just doesn't. Yes. So I think what I would love to have happen is, Tamlin just roaming the hills in his beast form, right? And I would love for, like, the High Lord magic, right, to just leave him and go to Lucian. And then Lucian and him can have it heart to heart, and he can be like, don't be a monster. Stop.
Yeah, I'm really interested I've been like really diving into Elaine because I hate to say I've kind of brushed over Elaine, and she's not been my favorite sister just because I think Sarah purposely did that to like be like, this is Elaine and she's surface level and she likes to give like gardening tips. But I do feel like we're ramping up to maybe having like, I don't know if it's evil Elaine or like backstab.
I would be here for evil Elaine.
Oh,
yes.
I'm so here. Yes.
My one thing with evil, I love the evil Elaine theory, but my one thing is that her power is not, it's not violent power. So I don't understand how she could become this evil, like, main villain, kind of like a really, like, aggressive villain when her power is not an aggressive power. You know what I mean?
I was thinking that seers can sometimes go crazy because they literally see, like, the people that they love suffer.
Right.
In order to stop that suffering, she can become evil. This was the one that I like literally had. I was like, okay, she goes crazy seeing the war and what happens to the people she loves. So she tries to kill them to save them from like that brutal death by like agenda. Like, well, this is way over the top.
Well, then the other thing is she's not trained. She does not know how to use, like she physically could not kill them.
Yeah. No, it was just
has
like
no chance.
So I
can imagine. We're all like, oh wait.
Yeah, I know. So I'm all here for evil Elaine. But as she stands right now, she like physically cannot become evil because she doesn't
I was thinking it was gonna be more like mind games or like manipulation in like a way that she's like taking what's said in the inner circle and like delving that to the big bad or something like that, and some kind of like, because as it stands, Elaine to the inner circle, and I think the fandom as well, is just like sweet Elaine. Like she like has to be coddled. She has to be like she wasn't there at the beginning of Silver Flames because they didn't think she could handle being there with Nesta. She had she just is gonna like go ignore her mate and guard it.
Which power move, by the way.
That's what she.
I get it.
Yeah.
But no, and I love that for her.
Yeah, that's what like on surface level, that is what Elaine. But as we went through Silver Flames, Elaine got more and more angry with the inner circle.
Yeah.
Trying to control her. And I think that could be a breaking point where when we got to Azriel's chapter, Reese literally said, y'all can't be together. And she's like, why is everyone trying to control my life? I've had my life controlled the entire time. and now she's taking back that control and manipulating the inner circle to think she's a certain way, but she's really like going to the big bad and being like, hey, this is what they said at the meeting. Like,
I also saw a really interesting theory in the bonus chapter, and several times throughout like the last 3 books, we see Asriel continue being like, his shadows go silent around her, and she's like the only person they go silent around. And I saw a theory that was like, it's because she's using her magic to like purposefully like suppress his magic. And I saw that and I was like, hold on.
Yeah, because don't they like freak out around Gwen? They like get all excited around Gwen. Maybe I've just been reading way too much fan fiction, but
I don't know how to feel about Gwenriel. Okay, here's the tea about Gwenriel. Let's talk about it. Sarah's so bad at hiding things. She's so bad at hiding
but she thinks she's good at it.
I know, she thinks she's really good, but she's really not. So we know that they're mates because of the whole like, oh, my shadows responded to her singing. So what do we think about that? What do you think about the fact that they're mates?
I love that his shadows stand them already. They're like, yes. Like the house already stands Nesta and Cassian.
Love the house. Favorite character.
Favorite, yeah.
Best part. I like Gwen and Asriel. My only thing is I've seen a lot of people say, well, Asriel was the one that saved her, so he's going to save her from her trauma. And I'm like, no. That's not what we're going to do. She's going to save herself from her trauma, and Asriel is just going to be like a support and like a friend. So I like them together, and I think that honestly, I've always seen Asriel with someone kind of in the similar sense of like Moore, who's kind of loud but not like crazy, who isn't outspoken, or no, that's not what I meant. Who is like who like speaks her mind and just is the opposite of Elaine, because I felt like Elaine was kind of quiet and like was too similar to Asriel. That's why they got along. So I like the dynamic of them, but if it's played correctly.
Yes, I agree. I also think that to an extent, Gwen has already been saved and healed from her trauma, through becoming a Valkyrie. So I don't think she has much more saving to be saved. You know what I mean?
Okay, I will start with my first critique. One thing that I was really looking forward to in Act Stuff was kind of seeing Nesta heal, but I kind of wanted to be where she took control of her own healing. And I feel like it kind of repeated A Court of Mist and Fury, where the male love interest carried her through her trauma and kind of got her to deal with it. So I do understand why people are like, okay, a male is going to get like Elaine to deal with her trauma, because that's what Sarah J. Maas has done in the past, and she hasn't changed that in any way. And I guess like it is a fantasy world, but I don't find that to be very realistic, and I don't really like that.
I completely agree. And someone had said, I don't know who said this to me, but the process of Nesta's healing was like almost a mirror reflection of what Feyre's was. Which, I mean, if you look at it, you could be like, oh, sisterhood, like, of course, I mean, like, they're fighting their battles the same way. But also...
they're very different.
Yes.
But also...
It felt like A Court of Mist and Fury, but with a lot of spice.
Yes. Right. I definitely, because I was listening to A Court of Mist and Fury while annotating this book, like, at the same time, and I noticed that the storylines went very
flat. Like, how did you do that? Like, how do you listen to a book while annotating? Okay, I'm just
I already knew what I was annotating. I'd already like highlighted. I was just sticking like the sticky notes down of like the tabs. But I noticed that where it was very similar and it was very the same plot line. And I was like, but Nesta's over here like, I don't like, it's my trauma is different from everyone else's trauma, and I'm going to heal a different way. And I was like, but Sarah's not making it that way. Which was so frustrating. And I love, like, Nesta has always been my favorite. And, like, I will admit, at like the first book, I was like, I'm gonna kick her in the head, but then I was like, oh wow, that's me. So I'm gonna kick myself in the head.
Yeah. But I think Sergey Mas was saying that in the first book, like the first few chapters, she said that she thought of Elena and Nesta as the evil sisters. And that as she started writing, like halfway throughout the book, she was like, there is more to them. So it's like the first impressions that we get of them are different than what Sarah now views them as. And I think a lot of people still want to like hold the first 4 chapters against the sisters. And I'm like, Sarah's kind of already made an explanation. And I don't know why we do that with women in these books when that's not done with Reese or Eris. Like I'm just like,
yes.
I'm just like everybody's already like, okay, I'm ready for an Eris redemption arc, and I'm just like, right, keep that energy,
keep that same energy, keep that same energy, exactly. And it's also, I mean, actively critiquing a character's behavior is not going to prevent other people from enjoying that character.
Yeah.
So, when this happens often to me when I post a TikTok, often critiquing Reese because Reese often needs critiquing. And like, well, I can't, you can't expect me to just stop liking him. And I'm like, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. You can like him, but he's just kind of.
Just because you could critique him does not mean you don't like him either.
Yes.
Because that's my whole thing. Because I have a lot of critiques of Cassian in this book. Like, I want to kick him in the head, but I also love Cassian.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro. Like, when the first couple chapters, when he was like, more is the most beautiful thing. And then he's like, I want Nesta. And, like, I will have her. I was like, okay, where are we going with this?
Controlling, possessive, obsessive. Like, let's just keep the list running. Like,
I was just like, Sarah's horniness like really jumped out, and
like,
oh my god.
And
wait, Diana said, I want to hear from Kayla, and Kayla, let's hear from you. Oh yeah, like you didn't tell us what you thought about Gwen and Azriel.
I guess backtracking, I like them. I like them a lot better than like Azriel and Elaine. Like I feel like it's just like too easy if they all end up with like an Archeron sister, if that makes any sense.
They don't.
And I definitely agree with like everything we've been talking about. My brain is still just like back on the show and just everything. If you can't tell, it's intense. It's intense.
I know. The second that was announced, I was like, oh, this is gonna be an interesting live show, because like I literally would open Book Talk and everything was that. I was like, I have to get off of here before I get myself in trouble and just start.
Yes.
Yesterday was insane.
Keep my mouth shut, and I need to turn my phone off.
Yeah,
it was insane. Yesterday
and then I
was
get on
a long day
on Twitter, and it's the same thing. And I was like, and I'm getting messages. I'm like, oh my gosh, guys.
I had a book Twitter, and I had to not be on book Twitter. Book Twitter is terrifying.
I think it is
terrifying.
Yeah, I just shitpost on Twitter all the time. So
I just retweet random things. Yeah.
Like my Twitter is a random mishmash of like books and hockey. So like we don't know where we're going. But yeah, I
ask actually, would you guys audition? Like I know that Beth will like yes. But because I mean that's like your future career.
Yeah, it's literally what I do.
Yeah
literally. Yes.
I know I would want to too, because it's been a crazy 24 hours. Beth can attest to this. Yesterday was very intense for me. Yeah, I would say I'd be interested.
Yeah, no, I'd be
there's a lot of pressure right now. It's fine. Everything's fine. It's all good. We love it here. It's fine.
But I feel like you guys already have an advantage because you guys already have cosplay. So, you guys can like bring that. I don't know like how CVs work for this industry, but it seemed like it would be like relevant experience, right?
Right. Well, and part of it too is like for projects like this, they're not going to like put it out on like Actors Access. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like your agent books you an interview, which books you an audition with 50 other girls who look exactly the same. So something like, it's not like an open audition, right?
Yeah. Which I think is like the hardest thing to understand or to have people understand. Cause like, I know I've been facing a lot of pressure with people tagging me and stuff. and it's just
You
like
should
very
audition. You should audition. Are you gonna audition?
and it's like, yeah, that would be amazing, but like it just I don't know. There's just yeah.
I think it's just so exciting for the fandom because you guys have been like our canons for long. So like now we're
You're gonna make me cry. You're actually gonna make me cry. Like the amount of support and tags just like in the past 24 hours. Oh my, it's
right. Well,
insane.
and when people tag you and they're like, "Have you seen this? Have you seen this?" The fact that when they're creating it in real life, they think of you to be that person is very like my heart.
Oh my god, yeah.
My heart.
It's insane.
It is, and
it's a crazy feeling.
It is, and I think too a big part of it is that like with books, hiring people who already understand the characters is half of the work. There's like character dossiers and like all of these things that people who have read and analyzed and annotated and festered in their brain about these characters, and they know them so well, whereas like Henry Cavill, who's never read the books, is gonna
it just brings something else to the table, which is like low-key what I hope they really think through is like who's playing who and like why are they picking them, what do they bring to the table, and like things like that. Does that make any sense?
Just, like, do they look right?
Yeah, not like do they look right? Oh, this is a big name. Like I very much hope that they really listen to the fandom in direction for like what they see. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because like appeasing the fandom is a big deal that will make or break something like this, like a TV show like this. So casting the right people is so important. That
makes 100% sense. I've worked like in the industry, so I know how it works, and like how Beth said, I think it'd be interesting if they set out an open call and they gave that opportunity to people.
Yes.
That would be like a dream to be like, I want people who have read the book, know these characters, and like for me personally, I got a couple like messages being like, are you gonna audition? And I was like, I am, but I know my typecast. I know who I'd be typecast as. Like everyone, like the people who were messaging me were talking about more, and I was like, I would not play more to the point that she should be played. Like I am not, like I don't have that in my repertoire. I very much am in a lane. And so it's hard when you go into an audition knowing who you're typecast as, and you're standing in a room with hundreds of, if it was like a cattle call audition,
oh my god, yeah,
of girls who look exactly like you, are the exact dimensions of you, and you have to be like, pick me because of this. And it literally could be, well, you don't have the right eyebrows. Like, I don't like your eyebrows. So
yeah. Well, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just like between two people, it would just be like they're a half inch taller. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sometimes it's just like, and maybe they're the same height, but you were slouching in your headshot, so you look short. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's so many things that are out of your control.
But that's the biggest thing, out of your control. Like the past 24 hours. Oh my god.
I think though, because of COVID, self-tapes are the only way auditions are happening right now.
Yeah.
And self-tapes are pretty simple to make.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's completely possible for them to be like, send us a self-tape. We want 2 contrasting monologues, 30 seconds each, a minute each. You know, I think it would be so simple for them to open this up. It would be so simple for them to open it up.
It would be such a groundbreaking thing for them to do that, because it's never been done in a book adaptation. I think that when you look at like the Hunger Games, Jennifer Lawrence already had a resume. She wasn't huge, but she had a resume. And then you had like the big names in there. They're all great. But at the same time, I want to see people who haven't been used over and over again.
Yeah.
I love the fan casts for some of the Inner Circle, but I've seen them in so many things and I'm over them.
Yes. I haven't read Shadow and Bone, but the casting in Shadow and Bone, other than Nina, who is not plus size, they're all people that I haven't seen, and I'm like very excited to watch this because I'm like I don't have a name to your face, so I get to watch this like clean slate, and I'm very excited for that. Yeah,
and they're also attractive. That I realized at the cast. The first thing that I thought when I saw them was like, they're all so attractive.
They're all hot.
Like, they're all. We'll just mean bi panic throughout the entire.
Yes, very much. One of them for Narnia though.
Ben Barnes. Yeah.
He was my I loved him in Narnia from little Allison was like, I love you. So now that he's the Darkling, I'm like,
I don't like Mal. I'm sorry. I
do not know how old he is.
That in there.
I think late 20s, early 30s. He wasn't that old when he was in Narnia. I also don't want them to mess up the characters because I clearly see them the one that I know that they're just gonna mess up is More. They're just gonna mess her up, and I'm just like, they're gonna hire this skinny blonde model, and I'm gonna be mad, and I'm gonna be like, and they're just gonna over sexualize her, and I'm like,
yes,
that's not More. You can't mess her up.
I really hope that they actually pick an actor from the community rather than just a straight person. But I feel like I don't know if they're gonna do that.
Yeah,
that's my biggest fear too. Casting.
And I feel like they can actually make Illyrians people of color. They can do that, and they should do that. I think just because I know a lot of people think that Illyrians are already people of color, but I'm from Turkey, and Illyrians are Turkish, and I'm white. In Turkey, our ethnicity is from Middle East, but our race is white, so they're not people of color. And I'm just like, that could be something that's changed for the TV show, though.
Yeah,
I thought the Illyrians were Lebanese. I thought she said they're based off of the Lebanese people.
They're based from Turkey. She made a live about it too, where she said they're based on Turkish people. Yeah, and I do see some of our more customs, I guess, in these books. So I do kind of see where she got it from. But if she I did see her Pinterest board where she kind of has all of the inspirations that she has for Akhtar, and the cast that she has for these characters are also white. She's just okay, this is who I exactly imagine as Cassian, and it was a white person. So I'm just okay, they're white.
Yeah, right. Which is disappointing, to say the least.
Yeah.
And now we have again, like you guys were saying, it's a second shot.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
Which I think is a good thing. I think that Sarah rightfully so gets a lot of backlash, but she's been trying to fix some of her wrongs, and I think this will definitely show, if they do it right, the growth. And I think that my thing is I'm not so scared about them casting the males, because the males can be cast so easily, but it's the females that I'm like, you have to cast the perfect Feyre. You have to cast.
That's what scares me so much.
And here's the thing too, is that the perfect Feyre is different for everyone. So there's never going to be someone cast that everyone is going to be like, that's Feyre, because Feyre is not the same for everyone.
Yeah. I think.
Go ahead.
I think for me, it's not even the physical part; it's the acting,
the essence. Yeah.
Yes, the essence of Feyre. You have to have someone that is just Feyre, not even that looks like Feyre, because you can make someone look however you want in so many ways. But for her to be all of the different aspects of Feyre, because she's not just one thing. She plays so many different roles. She has to be emotional. She has to be sweet. She has to be cunning. There's so many things. And I think the females, that is a big thing throughout all of the females. And I'm interested how they'll play Amarantha, and who will play Amarantha. I could see them casting a big name for her, and I wouldn't be too mad about it, because it's she would be a big name, and she's in the series for 2.5 seconds, maniacally
all
on her throne.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So
I totally agree with what Beth said. Everyone interprets these characters so differently, and I think that's why the fandom is so toxic. Everyone tries to like enforce their interpretation on other people, and they get mad when you don't think a certain way. So I don't think there's going to be a perfect character for everyone.
It's stressful, but I'm also very excited to see how it goes.
Yeah, definitely.
I think a big part of like, I'm about to say something controversial. Oh no, I don't have Hulu. Right?
Warning.
I know I don't have Hulu. So I think a big part of whether or not I'm going to even get Hulu to watch the show is going to depend on how well the corrections are, specifically in casting. So like people of color, people in marginalized communities, and like representation. I think that's going to be a really big part on whether or not I even watch it, because I know what the story is. You know what I mean? So yeah, I guess are you guys for sure dead set on watching it no matter what the casting is?
I've been thinking, I think I'm in the same boat as you with that, but I've also been thinking about whether or not, like, okay, so like shows take a while, right? So like how long realistically would you say until this show hits the screen?
Oh God, probably like a year and a half.
With COVID, a year and a half, even longer.
Yeah.
We could be looking at a 2023.
That's what I keep reminding myself, like, of that fact, because I feel like now it's very intense, it's very scary and stressful. And I don't know if by then I'll feel kind of like that pressure to watch it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because like, I'm terrified, and Farrah's my homegirl, and so I'm very terrified to see how she gets portrayed. So like for me, it's a question of that, but also like, can I mentally handle like watching the, like.
And if you haven't even started casting, that can take a year. And
That's true.
Once they finish the script, that script has to go to the studio. The studio has to approve that. They have to film a pilot episode. So they only film one episode in the beginning. They film that pilot episode, and then that goes to the board of the studio. The studio approves it or says, we want these things changed. Then once those things are changed, then it goes to a board of preview watchers, and they get their reactions on that. That is where the decision is made if this is going to get a full-length show or if the pilot's just going to be scrapped. So although it's coming and they're writing a script and they're casting, there's no guarantee that we're actually going to get this show, because shows like The Selection and trying to think of other stuff that's been
I feel like is like very important. Yeah, like, and I feel like that aspect, like right now, I know for me, just with a lot of things, like it just feels very intense and like overwhelming. Mm-hmm. But I think like as a fandom, we need to understand like the timeline of this thing, and that it's not so much like I don't know what I'm trying to say.
No, I think I agree that we need to understand that, like, we say we're getting a TV show, but that might not be the case in a year from now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could be a while till we actually get a TV show, or if we ever get it. That was like my whole thing, and I didn't want to say it on TikTok because I didn't want to be like, hey, to burst everyone's bubble from work in the industry, this might be what's happening. And
I've heard real life.
Here's me destroying all your hopes and dreams.
Yes.
People are gonna like calm down, like you said, like in a year people are probably gonna like kind of forget about this. They're gonna be like, wait, is this still happening or not? So in a year you can probably talk about it and be fine.
Yeah.
Jumping onto the bandwagon of like, ACOTAR is so giant with these TikTok groups. Like, people are loving them, and that is where, and during quarantine the sales shot. That's where the studio was like, okay, yeah, we're gonna do this. A year from now they might be like, this is a bad investment. So it's like, I don't think it's going to be a bad investment. I think we're actually going to get it because people are still going to be talking about this, and Sarah is still putting out books and still doing it very well. I just think that everyone is like, blah, and I'm like, just calm down, children. It's fine.
Yes. I think a lot of people like to make noise, if that makes any sense. Just like, I feel like talking about it is a lot of people's ways to like conceptualize and process it, which is why I think so many people like took to social media and were like, have you heard about this? And we're like, everyone is yelling it. Yes, we've heard about it.
Yeah. And it's like we can't yell about it with people right now. So we just have to yell on the internet with people.
Yeah.
Right.
What I realized is, like, over quarantine, obviously a lot of people don't have a lot to do, so they've been staying home and they've been feeling way too connected to these fictional worlds that they take things so personally. And that is also what
Yes.
the toxic.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
isn't
Don't
personal.
at me like,
Pull me out.
don't at me like that.
Literally. I guess we're exposing, like, hello.
But I mean, I think we all, maybe I've made some mistakes, but I think like we're all pretty great at, like, you know, having our opinions but respecting others' opinions. Whereas I'm seeing other people like take things so personally to where they attack others. Whereas we, even if we take it personally, like we'll just cry at night. Like we won't like attack people.
I'm like, I'll just cry to Taylor Swift later tonight. It's fine.
I know.
Like I can just cry later.
I think that's a big thing too with the ACOTAR fandom, which I feel like it's weird because I feel like everybody kind of came together, which feels very, very strange because the ACOTAR fandom, in my opinion, is very fractured. Like it's a big fandom, don't get me wrong, but there's lots of sub parts of it.
Fix your microphone.
Is there something wrong with it?
Yeah, it's like giving an echo, kind of.
Hello?
Yep, it's good now.
Oh, is it good? Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
On
Am
your
I good? Oh, okay. I will just like, wait, what side is that? I'm just going to hold it right here so that doesn't happen. Wait, what was I saying? Yeah, I feel like the ACOTAR fandom exists in factions because there's some of us that are more like mature, like I can understand whatever and, you know, can have these difficult conversations.
Yeah.
And there's some people, especially with a lot of younger, that don't understand that and get very offensive, or defensive very, very fast. So for me, it's been weird seeing everybody kind of come together and like just be like, oh yeah, this. And then now I feel like things are going to fracture.
Yeah.
Once things come out, more information, it's gonna
be bad.
It's
Civil War. Yeah.
Very crazy.
I think too that like, you know, we can like the 13-year-old fans are what they are. And then I think too like the older fans. I don't know how old you are, Allison.
I'm 25.
Okay,
I'm a grandma of TikTok.
I'm talking about like the 30, 40-year-old fans.
Yeah, and there are
I feel like those two extreme ends of the spectrum are, quite frankly, really where the problems come in, I think.
Yeah, because I've seen some 30-year-olds that are bullying teenagers, and I've seen some teenagers that are speaking over marginalized communities.
Yep.
And, you know, like I am a bit more hesitant to ever talk to a minor because I'm just like, I don't want to come off like bullying. And I understand that, you know, you're going to grow up and you're going to probably come to realize that what you said wasn't the best thing.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, that is a big thing, especially on Book Talk, as I've been on it for how long I have. Yeah. I mean, it hasn't even been that long, but for a while. One thing that I've noticed that was as my audience grew, little younger people tried to pick fights with me over like random stuff. And I think like that's a really important realization is just
people literally just come to your page for a fight, and I'm like, I don't owe you a discussion. Like, why
are you here?
Because Beth, you made a TED Talk talking about your view of power and Nesta and stuff, and it was amazing. I loved it, and I duetted it, and then people were like, I don't agree. I'm unfollowing. And I was like, okay, that's great. Like, that's the beauty of social media. If you can't stand hearing a different opinion or constructive conversation, then like you can go. Like there's the door. Like you are under no means to be consuming my content if you can't handle differing opinions or constructive, like these hard conversations that we need to be having.
I think too, the show is going to come out, which is going to bring an audience, if the show comes out, is going to bring an audience of non-readers, which is going to be
like Shadow and Bone.
I mean, a whole other freaking ballgame.
I'm terrified of that too.
And so now we've got like the book people who are in a civil war and the fandom people who don't even know what's going on at all because they've only seen 3 episodes of the show. I mean, like, it's going to be a disaster for a hot minute. It's going to be like a dumpster fire. Yeah.
But I think we're already seeing that. Like, I don't understand. Like, I think Beth, bless your heart. She put up with me so much yesterday. Yesterday was not a great day mentally. It's fine. Yeah. It's just going to get crazier from here on out, but I hope it chills a little bit.
Yeah.
That makes any sense.
I definitely like have noticed that you three get a lot of people that come to your videos and are just like, you're wrong. And I'm over here like the grandma of TikTok who like no one fights with. Like no one fights with me on another thing. And half the time I'm like, can someone fight with me? Like I want to be fought with.
I think part of that comes, Allison, is the fact that you're a published author. I think that's a big part.
Really?
Of it. There's like a level of respect and esteem that isn't assumed with the rest of us.
I like don't see myself as that. I'm like, yeah, I published a book, but I'm still trash for Cassie, and at the same time, like, it's fine.
I'm a normal person, just like you.
Hannah Montana over here. I'm like, I hope to put on a wig and be like, resand is bad, and then like walk.
And people will come for you.
Oh my god, yes, that is a big thing too. Is people like on my page with resand, because we all know I love Farah, I love resand, but people can't handle having those conversations about resand that are like really important to have, because
there are some people who like, if I'm like, maybe resand shouldn't have drugged Farah,
and then when they say something, it blows my mind, because people like, I feel like I talk about this with my friends Lizzie and Lou a lot about being able to consume media and be able to criticize while still enjoy it, while being able to have those conversations and still like, it's a book.
It's called being a fan, like not being a fan. And I think like we're all great examples of being fans because we have talked about these problematic issues with the book and the characters, but it's obvious that we still enjoy it. And that's what people is like, you're allowed to have nuances. Like, you know, you're allowed to like certain parts, you're allowed to like not like certain parts. But I think whenever you criticize it, people just think that you're an anti when like we literally make content on it. So we're clearly not antis. Like a lot of us like fall in between stans and antis, but people don't seem to realize that.
Right.
That's true. And one thing that I found is when you talk about these things, I usually have these conversations, or in the past about ACTAR and my issues with it and just like all that, through lives. And I don't know about you guys, but I found doing lives is way better than just like posting content for like getting feedback and having like that conversation. Because I feel like it comes down to like all these people being like, oh, you're wrong in the comments, and just being able to hit that and leave and say nasty things, try to do whatever, you know, to be like, you're the worst. How dare you say that about my husband? Like, but like when you have, when they're forced to like have like that, there's consequences to what you say even online in these conversations. People are a lot more willing to listen or have those conversations.
Right. Yeah, in my lives, I always have great conversations. Whereas, I mean, I kind of left the fandom because of how toxic it was. I'm just like, I'm sorry. I honestly don't care that much. I actually have a life, which it seems like some of you don't. If you like need.
No, literally, I haven't posted favorite content partially just because of some people not being nice, but that's like besides the point. Again, fandom can be so toxic, but I definitely took a step back after Court of Silver Flames was released, just because like I just like could not keep up with it. Does that make any sense? Like Farah has my heart. I will always love her. So much of who I am is because of her, but like I'm also my own person.
Yeah. No, there's
that makes sense
to us than what is in a 2D character. And I think like, people just are like, oh, you're Fair, oh, you're Nesta. And I'm like, while there may be like these common grounds with these characters, I am way more complex than a book and a character will ever be.
And I feel like sometimes there's pressure with that, being in this fandom and having people look up to you as these characters, which is amazing. Like my life has changed because of it. Don't get me wrong. But like I've talked to Beth, I know about this, of like the pressure that comes along with that, of just being like labeled as that. Like, does that make sense?
It
like
does.
It's like very intense.
I think
much else, but
I think a lot of people do not like me. Like there's a lot of people that really don't like me.
Well, I love you.
I love you.
We all love you here.
Every live.
Because I've established, people associate me with Nesta, and people don't like Nesta, so people don't like me.
Yeah,
you know
people don't understand Nesta,
so
and people aren't willing to try to. And
no, absolutely. And so I think that like, when I think too, like taking with a character, you're like establishing, like you're like taking a stance, right? So maybe like I like Nesta is basically to some people being like, I'm a bad person. You know, like those sentences mean the same thing to some people. So I mean, there's amazing things with being so associated with the character, and there's really negative things. And I'm really, really like privileged and honored that people also really strongly associate me with Bryce. So the polarity between those two as well is really interesting. Is like people will be like, "Oh, Nesta, you suck,"
But then they're like, "Oh yeah, Bryce."
Same people will
Yeah.
be like, "Oh my god, I love Bryce. Your Bryce is so amazing."
It's
And
the
I'm like,
duality and the lack of like the same energy for me.
Yeah. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
I feel like Nesta reminds a lot of Aelin to me. I just feel like maybe like people like Aelin because we kind of got to see more of her perspective throughout so many books, whereas people were just getting to see Nesta's. And I really feel like Axif was cut short. Or maybe we should go back to Axif. I don't know.
Yeah, if we want to talk about it, Allison, you can like be like, okay,
Yeah, Allison,
whatever.
Allison, please.
Yes.
We will just ramble.
Yeah.
I agree that Nessa is a lot like Aelin because I finished Throne of Glass and then waited till Akasif came out.
Mm.
I think people only view Nesta in the way that Feyre viewed Nesta.
Yeah.
And Feyre and Nesta, although they're different, they're very similar at the same time. And you see that in Akasif.
Yeah.
And I was like rereading the first couple chapters this morning to like prep myself for the inner circle talk because I have a lot to say about the inner circle. Love them, but like I wanted to kill like mostly three of them. But
Don't get me in trouble. Don't get me in trouble.
I'm gonna get myself in trouble. It's okay.
Guys.
I feel like everybody on the live stream seems really nice, though. I haven't seen a single comment, so
yeah, we love you guys. Thank you for being decent human beings. We appreciate it.
But Nessa said that Elaine and Feyre were the ones that were like dotted after by their father, and Nessa was the creation of her mother. And we never really understood the mother situation until this book. And I always said that. I was like, Nessa is her mother. And then we got that, and I was like, it all makes sense. Why Feyre has such a resentment against her mother because she made her promise that, and then she resents Nesta as well. And Nesta's so complicated because we had 3 books of Feyre being like, Nesta's bad, Nesta's selfish, Nesta's this. Like, we love her, but she's all these things in my mind. And then we have people interjecting themselves into that family dynamic.
Yeah.
And I was like, everyone just needs to get out of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it also comes down to perspective too, because I don't know if you guys remember when the first chapters were leaked of this book, people went
It was literally a civil war.
It was civil war. Like it was war.
Yeah.
Like, and I think the biggest thing is it comes down, I think, to a lot of people with preconceived ideas on Nesta that aren't willing to even give her a chance in that perspective, because we've gotten Feyre's point of view. How Feyre views the inner circle, views everybody, is completely different than Nesta. And Feyre herself is extremely flawed, no matter how much she likes to be like, and the fandom likes to like put her up on a pedestal, and I know that because like I do a lot of Feyre stuff, but Feyre's not perfect either. So her perspective is not the be all end all. Yeah. And that's what made me upset, is when people couldn't understand that like perspective is everything. Yeah. Like they're not going to view anything the same way.
Right.
And you can't like preconceive all this judgment. Like I heard people be like, I'm not even going to read the book because they painted the inner circle in this light and I was like, hold up. Yeah. Like hold up.
Yeah. I still enjoyed reading it. While I do have critiques of it, there were definitely like good sides of it too. One of the things that I really loved about it was the friendship, I think, with Emery and Gwen.
Loved it.
Yeah, I loved it. Like I mean, I love the trio. I love the idea of like a female trio, and I'm so glad that we got it. And they all seem like such strong women, so I would love to see more of them. And by the way, kind of going back to Gwenriel, I feel like it would be kind of realistic because Asriel is kind of almost part of this inner circle with Nesta, Gwen, and Emery, and Cassie is a part of it too. And it's like, it seems like Asriel's a kind of part of it too, right?
Yeah, it's like their own inner circle.
Yeah.
Like, we love it. Yeah.
They're like, you can't sit with us.
Yes, really good. One thing I think in the female trio in the book, I feel like there were some parts of it that felt very forced. Particularly when they're all about to climb the Rimmel Mountain and they have that like, we're all going to share our trauma at the exact same time.
Oh, I know. I was like,
yeah. I flagged that part. I was just like, what are we doing here?
Bad. It's just, that could, yeah. So
I'm
that,
like-
in my brain, I rewrote it, and that's not what happened in real life.
I'm like, guys, there's like a giant horde of people trying to get you, but let's all have a like.
Yeah, like we're just gonna sit down. We're gonna like.
Let's have some tea. I don't know, and like let's pass around some tissues. But I also feel like Sergey Mas kind of popped out of having timely and meaningful conversations.
Oh yeah.
Like interacting, because okay, I will say. I, as a Nesta myself as well, I do think that Nesta and Feyre should have had a conversation, but Sarah J. Maas kind of copped out with the whole giving powers and saving Feyre thing. And I feel like they should have had a conversation because we still don't know so many things about their past. Like Nesta drops these few bombs throughout the book saying that Feyre made mistakes as well. But they never talk about their mistakes that they made when it came to each other. But throughout the book, we know that their relationship was so complicated because Nesta's always like, I don't want to see Feyre. And Cassian doesn't push it, but that never gets resolved till Feyre. I was so confused.
I did not enjoy. I have a 6-minute video clip of me reacting to that in live. If anybody ever wants to see my confusion, in that whole Feyre Nesta resolution.
It wasn't a resolution,
but it wasn't though. That's the thing, and I felt like it just felt like it was like rushed, or like it was like, okay, well, this is it. This is, you know, XYZ we got here. This is the end. There you go. But like it's like
it felt very much like
a formula.
Yes.
Stock characters, baby.
Literally.
Here we are. Yeah.
And I know as a Feyre person, like seeing that all, like it just like I didn't like it. Like I was like, what are we doing? Why is this happening? Why does this has to happen? Like why does this have to happen?
It just felt like Sarah needed a big like bang of a finish for that. And we all knew that she wasn't gonna kill off Feyre and Rhys. We know that. She's tried it multiple times. It's not gonna work.
Well, and she's like, oh my god, everyone be so worried. It's like
I didn't even cry.
I did cry, but that's because I was because I was just like, oh my god, does this mean that's the moment when I realized that maybe I need to focus more on my life outside of ACOTAR. That was a moment where I realized maybe I need to separate me and Feyre a little bit more. Anyway.
My thing also was that like Rhys went from like, I hate Nesta, like Nesta and I were enemies, like I'm gonna be mean to her every time I see her, like that's gonna fix the relationship, to like, I will give you the grandest mating ceremony, like I will kiss your feet for the rest of your life. I'm like, that doesn't.
I did not like Rhys. I did not like Rhys in this book. I didn't like Rhys, and I loved Rhys. Like literally, Rhys is like my like. I didn't even like. I was like, "Who are you?" Like, I was like, "What is happening?"
I will.
Oh my god!
There were a lot of character inconsistencies, not just with Rhys, but with Nesta and Cassian as well.
Yes, okay, like you guys would never do that. Yeah.
Wait, Beth. Wait, sorry, I totally interrupted. But Beth said something when we were talking about. Oh my god, my brain completely blanked. Never mind. I had something important to say.
It'll come to you.
No, it was something you said that like is in line with like what Mel was saying. It was something. Oh, okay, keep talking. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out.
Anyone pick up that the house land that Rhys gave to Feyre was war desolate land? So people died on that land during the war, and he was like, build your house.
Oh my god.
He like kicks over the skeleton. He's like, don't mind that. It's just, we'll get that fixed.
Well, and earlier in the books, they established the House of Wind as like a vital base of operations. Like it's so important to the Night Court.
Like,
but, you can just have it.
Oh, I remembered. It's in that. You said one time when we were talking that like Sarah writes rules and then she breaks them, and she broke a lot of rules or preconceived, like not preconceived, but like established factors in the other book. She breaks them in this book without explanation, like the House of Wind.
So many rules for
or pregnancy.
Yes,
like it's so hard to conceive a golden couple. See, that's what bothered me too, because I was like, I felt like that was just, it was just like, it wasn't important to the characters. It was just used as a plot. Like it was just like, oh, here you go. Here's another part of the equation.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to remember too that ACOTAR is a self-insert series for Sarah.
Oh, 100%.
It totally is. So she had a baby, Feyre has a baby.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's something that we need to remember, is that she's very, very much inserting herself and her life into these stories.
As a writer myself, I find that so interesting because I have tried to do that and I never can. I literally never can.
See, I'm the opposite. I'm the complete opposite. Like anything I write, the characters are like a reflection. Even in D&D, my D&D character, Beth can attest to this, is literally an extension of myself.
I feel like maybe that's a way of people to express themselves, especially
very much for me. Yep.
I'm very extroverted, so I'm just like, people know too much about me already. Like, I don't need to read about me.
I like definitely insert myself like tiny little seeds into like characters. Like main character in Dark Radiance definitely has aspects of me in her.
I
Don't look at me like that.
I could see that. Like the coffee part, I was like, Allison also only. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was like,
I also wrote it at like 18. So like that series is so different. But I definitely see Sarah just inserting herself, but also like using mating as a plot point. Everyone has a mate now, but in the beginning it was like, it's so rare.
She breaks so many of her own rules.
And I was like, so we have Cassian has a mate now, Reese has a mate, Lucian has a mate,
Azrael has a mate.
Azrael has a mate, more might have
a mate. She made the mating rule. Mates are rare, broke it. She made the pregnancy rule. Fae pregnancies are like, it's so rare to conceive, one in every like 100 years. Farrah gets pregnant. Makes the rule about how what were we just talking about? The other rule that she broke.
The house.
The house. She makes the rule of how important the house is, breaks the rule. Makes the rule about how secretive and special Valeris is, breaks the rule. I mean, like, I can't keep up.
Literally, they're like,
hello.
I feel like they're like on like a musical set and they're like, Valeris, come here. Like everyone, they're like, have you heard about Valeris?
Have you heard about the City of Starlight? Like I'm going next weekend. Come on, let's go.
Yeah,
I can get us in.
And now Valeris is like open season. Like anyone can come and go. Like
surprise.
What is the status of Valeris right now? We don't know. It was never explained.
Also, like, what is happening with like the visitations from the Night Court? That I was waiting for like the Night Court or the Court of Nightmares to come and be like, hey, and that's why I thought Reese was sending more away so much, like because he didn't want to risk that being a thing. But also like Eris is there and they're working with Eris, and I'm like, why are we working with Eris? And Eris is like, I didn't do what I said I did.
Also, we do so much of Eris. I know, like Sarah was saying that we don't see that much of Eris, but I'm like, I feel like we saw too much.
A lot of Eris.
No, without a doubt, without a doubt.
I think like a page of Eris is too much Eris. I don't like Eris.
Agreed. That Cassian said was like, you could be a really great male, but you just choose not to be.
You're too cowardly.
That's a lie. He's just not a good person in general. The only good one in the Autumn Court was Lucian, and look what you did to him.
Literally.
Right. Yeah.
Lucian is so scared of Nesta, and it makes
me God, I love it. I love it. Yes.
Literally. Part of me wonders if it's because
everyone.
of how he sees Nesta treat Elaine. So I wonder if it doesn't come from fear, but like anger, and he knows he can't confront Nesta about it because him and Elaine aren't on those terms yet.
Oh.
So he's like, I can't rip her throat out for insulting my mate like that, so I'm just gonna leave. You know, that kind of thing.
I wonder if like in the new books, because I don't know what we're getting. There's so much that keeps popping up. Like there's a novella in this. I wonder if one of the main plot points is gonna be like Gwen and Azrael are gonna like mate. They're gonna accept that, but they're not gonna tell anybody. It's just kind of gonna be on like the down low, and then there's gonna be like this big family dinner, and Elaine's gonna be like, I rejected the mating bond for Azrael, and then like shit's gonna hit the fan, and I probably not, but I want it to happen.
No, I would. Yes,
that'd be legendary. I hate to do this to you, Allison, but my one plot hole is that you can like people around you can sense or like smell the mating bond.
Oh yeah,
that's like
she'll break that. It's fine.
She'll break that rule. Yeah,
she'll break that rule.
Yeah.
And
I don't know why I even bring up these rules because
they're just all broken. Like
we just ask it. Can he like shield it from everybody else? Because he apparently that's what we do with someone's pregnant.
Apparently
we just put up a giant shield
around it. No, I don't know. I guess
and we hide what's happening to them.
Yeah. I feel like there's like ACOTAR obviously broke so many rules, but I think a part of that was because ACOTAR was supposed to be a trilogy, And now that it's extending, she's breaking the rules to keep it going.
Which is,
Yeah.
I think, quite frankly, unnecessary.
Yeah, I do think it's unnecessary. But it's also like she has so many editors. Like, how do they not catch these plot holes?
Because they don't care.
Okay, here is what I have heard in my universe of information. I have heard that Sarah J. Maas has editors, but she can choose not to apply the edits her editors have.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
So like your
Any
editors can give you an
author can do
edit,
that.
but you don't have to apply it. So I'm sure her editors were like, "What is this?" And she was like, "Well,
Da-da-da-da-da.
Send off.
So that's a thing you can do. So yeah.
Well, I hope she doesn't do that for the TV show. I hope she actually does listen to feedback, because I
Yeah.
think it would just make it so much better. Also, another plot hole that really irked me was in Akawar, there's this whole Moore thing, right? With like kind of casting choosing Moore, and Nesta still doesn't know that Moore is like lesbian or bi. I'm like, is she lesbian or bi?
We don't know. It's undefined queer representation, which is bad queer
Yeah.
representation.
And that just got totally ignored, just because like I remember that scene in A Court of Wings and Ruin when Nesta was helping heal Cassian's arm, and then Moore comes in and Cassian immediately drops his hand away and turns away and acts like Nesta doesn't exist, and Nesta leaves and doesn't come back for a while. That never like got addressed, and like we see this happen like a few more times, like at Solstice where Cassian and Moore give each other lingerie, and like Nesta knows that they slept together once, so it's just like they are still behaving this way. So there seemed to be like Nesta was insecure about it, and that never got addressed in A Court of Silver Flames. That was a big plot hole for me. And also we see Nesta taking accountability for the horrible things that she has said, right? Well, Cassian has been horrible too. Like Cassian has called her a spoiled bitch. Cassian has said, "You're unlovable." Cassian has not taken accountability for these things. So I think this is where I also kind of see some misogyny, where women are taking accountability for their actions and words, but men are portrayed as perfect despite their faults and wrongdoings in the past.
Yes.
I also feel like Moore was like not Moore in this book. Like
No.
Yeah, she was like, literally the author.
so unkind to Nesta, and I was like, okay, you're gonna be so kind to Feyre. Are you only kind to Feyre because she is Reese's mate and you knew this the whole time? And this is the real you? Or are you just unkind to Nesta because you feel like it? Or is there something else going on? Because she like, when I was reading scenes with her, like Moore being like, you don't deserve Cassian. You like, what happens to don't let the hard days win, bro?
Literally.
The other series?
And that comment about like sending her to Court of Nightmares, I just don't think that it just felt like a violation of her character with her past with sexual assault and with Nesta's past with sexual assault. Like it just doesn't seem like something a woman would wish on another woman ever, especially not these two girls who have experienced it themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like, as much as I hate like girl boss moments, I think Moore and Nesta have more in common than like anyone else do in the series.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like they were groomed from a young age to be this perfect thing. They've both gone through SA. They've both been like disposed from the only home they've ever known in a violent and aggressive manner. I mean, like, and that's why, honestly, that's why I think they don't like each other so much, is because they see the bad parts of each other within each other.
Yeah.
Which is a reason why a lot of people don't like Nesta, is because they see
That's
the
what I was
bad
about
parts
to
of
say.
themselves.
Yep.
Nesta.
Yeah.
It's like Nesta is a lot of people's mirror of Ouroboros, and a lot of people just choose to break the mirror, and you know, but yeah, I think they are the two most connected characters, so I don't understand where this animosity is coming from.
I always felt like it was weird, even in the other books, that like Nesta gravitated towards Amryn so much. Like Amryn was like Nesta's like yeah, she knew stuff, but it was like it seemed so weird to me. And then you turn around and Amryn, I literally was like, I'm gonna like squash her. I may be her size, but
I did not like her in this book.
When Nesta, okay, so many times I was like, Nesta would never do that. Like, so many times it happened with so many characters. But when Nesta bowed before Amryn, I was like, that Nesta would never do that.
Same. I was just like,
never ever do that for anyone.
Yeah, I was
what
like,
is happening here? Folks,
Yeah.
what's going on?
There was like this whole thing like at the beginning of the book where she like Amber was just so cruel. Like, hold on, we're gonna have this meeting. Faye was like, okay, we're gonna have this meeting. Everyone shut their mouths. I don't want to hear anyone say anything. The second the door opens, Amber and Brees are like,
Yeah, and also the fact that no one listened to Feyre, their high lady.
No.
But as soon as Reese like gives them a glare, they're like, it's like, hello.
Literally, I
don't
would
even respect
literally
your
be
own
like-
high lady.
like
Hello?
But my biggest thing with that also was Feyre was like, I told you not to get involved. I told you, like, I'm angry with you. But then the second they go to leave, they're gonna go screw. And I'm like, how? Like,
That
why?
bothered me. That made me so mad. Like in the Phase-In extended chapter, I was like, what is going on? Like I was just like,
I haven't
Why?
read the extended chapter because I
didn't
know it's just gonna piss me off. Like I know I'm just gonna get mad.
you're
It just
probably
felt
right,
like
yeah.
Every like thing they were like, we'll put a band-aid over that with sex. Like it was just
Yes.
like everything. I was
Which
like,
is
this-
not healthy
Well, that's
and not a
so-
good example.
That's
Like
so unhealthy.
yeah.
If you have a problem with your significant other and you're angry with them, that should not turn you on.
No.
You should face that as an issue in your relationship.
But that's how Sarah always writes.
Which
Whenever
is gross,
That's
quite
true.
frankly.
Like, that's not with just them, but that's with any character. That includes Nesta and Cassian as well. So another thing with this book is I really wanted to see some more developments between Cassian and Nesta. I feel like their development was only sexual and not really emotionally, which made me sad.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Just thinking to put that out. It made me so upset.
The
I
only
felt
good
like-
emotional. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, what we were saying, the whole Thomas Mandry thing,
That
like
got scratched over.
she like really like in the extended chapter that we got in Echo War, one of them, I
Wings
don't
and
remember.
Embers.
Yeah, she
Mhm.
like was like that was like a big thing for her, and I feel like she just was like, I'm high fae now. That my trauma doesn't matter.
Yeah, definitely,
I'm like-
definitely.
That's not how it worked, and like that's my fear for Gwen is like we're just gonna be like, oh, it doesn't matter, but like Gwen's trauma is like that is not something you like mess with. Like
Yeah, I agree. And it's because like I think it's just such a sensitive topic because this is something that so many women go through. So I feel like Sarah more addresses like the actions rather than the root causes of these characters' trauma, if that makes sense. Like it's more just like, okay, I said mean things rather than being like, I went through this and my body still doesn't feel like it's mine. Because that was another thing. Like Nesta did not enjoy being high fae because that was a violation of her body again. And that didn't really get brought up either.
Yeah, I think that it shows that Sarah has not done like research or like prep work or like
When it comes to essay, I agree. And there should have been a trigger warning when it came to Gwen telling
yes.
about the story.
Oh yeah.
Very, very graphic. And I feel like if she had done enough research on it, like this topic wouldn't have been scratched over and there definitely would have been trigger warning when it came to it.
And especially like since the new book is branded for adult, but it's branded to young adult audiences.
Yeah.
And I don't want people, young people to read this book and to just assume that they just have to be fine afterwards because that's what these books are showing. I mean, there's no like like we discussed, there's no does she even ever talk about her essay? I think she describes what happens like in her brain, like,
In her mind,
first
she kind of talks about
but,
it.
she doesn't talk to anyone about it. Cassian was like so pissed off in Wings and Ember about it, and he never brings it up again. In fact, when they do have their sexy time, he does not care about her at all. There's no aftercare. There's no caring. There's no responsibility for
It
what
made me
he's
so
done
sad.
to her.
It
There's
made me-
no, and it was disgusting to read. I'm like, what
I
is
agree.
this?
he just
Yeah.
leaves. I'm like, if you think this person's your mate, shouldn't you be like, oh
Well, and
yeah, no.
especially if you know that they've gone through sexual
Yeah.
trauma.
Yeah. Sarah just kind of like wrote more, again, like an erotica rather than like a more emotional and relationship, like connecting journey. And I feel like we saw more of it in Accordo, Wings and Ruin when they weren't even like the main characters. So that was really upsetting. And that also kind of triggered me, like Beth said, like it just kind of like him just kind of getting up and leaving. And as well as some of the things that were said in this book were very volatile, especially when it came to Nesta's like own body and her personal choices, like how she slept around. While I don't think that that's a good coping mechanism, that's still her body, and you should not be judging some other person's body. And I also am seeing a lot of misogyny in the fandom, where Nesta is defined by her body count, whereas Cassian literally says that they fucked women in the same room, and I'm like, so everybody's gonna skip over that.
Well, not
Skip behind the women by her body.
I've seen people be like,
Oh
"Do
yeah.
you guys remember how they've all had sex with one girl in the same room?" And then when Nesta has the audacity to sleep with more than one person, they're like, it's like,
Hello.
And it's like also like these men are over 500-year-old. Their body count is way higher than anyone else's. Like they probably.
Let's be real.
Yeah, like let's be real. Like that just makes sense. And I don't know. I saw this one video that was like, yeah, I'm gonna hand the phone to someone who has slept with every guy in Valeris. And
I know.
And I was just like, just say I'm gonna hand the phone to someone who's not misogynistic. I was
someone
like,
literally did that? Are you kidding?
Someone did that, and it actually blew up on TikTok. And I hate seeing the comment section because the mutuals were in there, and they were like agreeing, and I was like, I'm mutuals with the wrong people. Oops.
Oh no.
I was like, damn.
Yeah,
no, but I felt the same way, Beth. I was like, I
That's
kind of made a
disgusting.
post.
We don't slut shame people.
We don't
If
slut
she
shame.
wanted to fuck every guy in Valeris, let her.
Yeah,
Let
like
her. What's wrong?
That
What's
is
wrong
the
with
tea.
that? What's wrong with that? Nothing.
Yeah, literally the first thing
period.
Amrit says to her when she comes into the meeting, it is like, I thought I bet it, or though I bet it's hard to look good when you've been out in the darkest of night, drinking yourself stupid and fucking anything that comes your way. And I was like, I literally threw my phone down and I was like, Amrit.
And
I was like,
a lot
I didn't want to walk in there and mom them all. I mean, like, my thing is you're over, like, what? They're like 5,000 years old.
Pretty old, yeah.
So old.
Like,
yeah, I'm just like, I just feel like it doesn't make sense with their age and their body count. Also, it's that like they don't really care much about decency. Like, for instance, Feyre and Rhysand have sex while like people are dying around them, right?
Yeah, that's like
turns around and slut shame, and I'm just like,
yeah,
make it make sense. And it's
Yes.
it doesn't make sense for Rhysand to do it just because he's been slut shamed himself, right?
well, and
Like inconsistencies with the characters are very apparent.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like in ACOTAR, especially according to Miss and Fury, they like make it very known that like, oh, you shouldn't be ashamed of like your desires, and you shouldn't be like, this shouldn't be like a thing. Like more like very much says that, and like it's a whole thing. But then when it's Nesta, they're like, get the pitchforks. Where
people hate her, and like,
Yeah.
she's done horrible things. But let me say something really controversial. I don't think
I'm excited.
what Nesta has done are as bad as some of the things that Rhys has done.
I completely agree.
Retweet. Yes.
I mean,
yes.
Nesta hasn't sexually assaulted anyone.
Exactly. She's never
Retweet.
drugged anyone.
I
never manipulated anyone into a deal that they didn't want to take.
or
I saw some
manipulated
video
everyone
that
not
was
to
like,
tell Feyre about her dying.
that
Yes.
had me rolling.
Oh, I would. Yeah. Oh,
And the sad
Wait, go ahead. Someone go ahead. Maybe I'm gonna say what I'm about to say.
make it make sense.
when that came about, I was like, oh, so we're really not going to tell her. So he's just being like an overprotective ass for no reason. And then when it does come out, Nesta's the bad guy for saying something. Because guess what? Nesta could have said something the day of.
She
and
should have. She should have.
She should have said it, like
She should have. If
Yeah,
Tyler,
she said it in a conversational, like, let's sit down, because this is such a wrecking news. I definitely don't agree with the way that she went about it, but that's Feyre's body. She deserves to know.
someone needed to freaking tell her.
Someone needed to tell her.
If I were
And
Nesta,
we all
which in another world I am, if I had gotten that information, I would have gone straight to Feyre, and I'd been like, listen, I know we're on the rocks right now, and I know you hate me, and I know that there's this animosity, but I have this information that literally is about your literal existence and your life or death of you and your child and your mate, because you all made this dumbass deal, and you need to know it. And the fact that they voted on it, the fact that they voted
disgusted
on
me. I was disgusted. I was like,
do we always vote on everything? Like,
I'm like,
You know, and they're like, oh, we vote, and this is all equal. Yeah, we want Rhysand to be like high king of everybody. Can we talk about that for a second?
Qyburn,
Someone in my
like,
comment section was trying to defend it, and they said it wouldn't be a dictatorship. It wouldn't be tyrannical if they willingly bowed to him. Brenda,
okay, Amarantha.
they're not gonna.
Literally.
They're not gonna.
I feel like that. Okay, this is also where I see misogyny. I'm sorry.
Yes, no, you're absolutely correct. That's where the misogyny becomes. Because if Nesta can wield all three of the Trove, Rhys can't even wield all three of them. Nesta can wield them. Doesn't it make sense for the person to be the High Ruler is the one who can actually use the weaponry in their possession? But no, then it's an Amarantha situation. Then it's tyranny. But if Rhys does it, well, he's Rhys, so it's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
That's the biggest. That annoys me so much because as somebody who does love Rhys, I feel like that just.
But
I can't even.
Like Rhys. I just didn't I kept looking at this person on the page.
I was like, who is this?
Who are you?
Like,
consistencies. And also I feel like Sarah J. Maas kind of tried to maybe show Rhys in a better light in here by kind of making Amryn look bad, because Amryn is the one who's pushing this, right? And Rhysand is saying no, as he should. He shouldn't want to be a tyrant. But it's like Sarah J. Maas was almost trying to make it look like what he's doing is this great thing when it's really just the bare minimum. And Amryn is kind of made out to be seen quote unquote the bad guy for pushing out this idea and notion, I guess.
Well, and the fact that we are
push the bad idea. She's always the most extreme. Here we go.
Yes, very much. Also, the fact that we are the idea to become a tyrant comes from a woman, and yet we're praising the man who's going to become the tyrant, and we're tearing apart the woman.
Yeah,
I think it's just misogynistic.
Definitely. Just because, like you said, Rhysand, everyone loves Rhysand, although he has his mistakes, and that's totally fine. But I don't see any hate accounts on him, but I see hate accounts on Elena and Nesta.
Yeah.
Even I don't know if there's anyone on Farrah, but the ones that I see on Nesta and Elena, and I'm not insert the Tic Tac sound. You all look like clowns right now. It's fine if you don't
literally how much time do you have on your hands that you can hate on fictional characters?
Okay,
that's the thing. Some people take it so far.
Yeah.
My hot take is this: if you hate a character so much to where you created an account about them, you relate to them. And you hate yourself.
Period.
That's just
yourself in them, and that's why you hate them so much.
Yeah, because and also also like Beth is saying, some people just really need to step away from the XR universe. Please get a new hobby.
Calm down. Yeah. Calm
or
down.
people who just attack people who like ACOTAR. That's my pet peeve.
Yeah.
It's yes,
Yeah. No, there's definitely so much toxicity. Oh, there's a new page on TikTok. It's calling all Gwynrail stands ugly and insulting it. I commented and I was like, hey, just FYI, who you ship in a fictional world doesn't determine how you physically look. And
the account is dedicated to that?
Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
I was dedicated to that.
It's just the fact that it doesn't even surprise me that makes me sad.
Fine. Just take me.
That's
I'll come and talk to you.
Person.
What the heck?
I will.
Do you have a job? Do you go to school? What do you do all day?
Yeah. It's so people taking this. I feel like it's okay to talk about these characters and criticize them, but I think the minute you attack real people over fictional things is the minute that you're wrong.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So talking about characters that didn't feel right. I felt like Feyre didn't feel right either, because when they found out about the wings situation, didn't Maja or whatever, I can never say her name right. Yeah, the healer. Didn't she say the baby has wings out loud? What did they think she was stupid? Do they think Feyre is an idiot?
I know. Well, and it just shows the
connect this?
disrespect that they have for her. That it just shows how little they think of her, and also as the healer, as a doctor tending to the patient, it's your responsibility to inform them of everything.
Yeah.
So also, I'm trying to figure out how that scene played out.
Yeah, literally.
She's doing a freaking pelvic exam or whatever on Feyre, and being it appears that the baby has, and Rhys covers her mouth. What, or did she just not say anything, pull her hand out, and take Reese aside? Because then Farrah would be suspicious. Like, she's not stupid, like you guys said. So I just don't understand. It doesn't comprehend up here. It doesn't.
Yeah. And I guess
no connection.
Extra weird because, I mean, like, Sarah herself is a mom. Like, how would she feel if her doctor kept information about her body from her?
And it was, and like, if it was the main conflict of the book, I'd be like, okay, without it, there wouldn't be any book. But it's not. It's unnecessary. It's completely unnecessary. Because the only reason it was written in was so Nesta had a reason to give up her powers, which is also
a whole nother conversation.
And you could write a freaking research paper about.
I will read it if you do.
I'll read it.
But until your TED Talk, I actually hadn't realized how this was recurring. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is like with Aelin and Emma.
Yeah.
I'm just like, and like you said, this doesn't happen to a single male character.
Yes.
I'm just like,
no.
Yes. Well, it's happened to Aelin, it happened to Nesta, it happened to Feyre, and it happened to Bryce.
It's always like the more strong-willed woman. It's never like more just soft and quiet ones like Elaine. It's always kind of the strong-willed woman that just defy men's expectations.
Yeah, and it seems like she consistently wants the men to. Well, I don't know if it's. I don't think Sarah J. Maas is a misogynist. Okay, let's just say that. But I also feel like she wants to keep the men in power in the books. And I just don't get
and
it.
I think the language even shows that too. Because, for instance, whenever Rhysand comes in, it's like the High Lord of the Night Court. But that's never really used with Feyre. Like, even with language, it's always kind of, using this title to show respect and power. Whereas with Feyre, it's just Feyre.
Yeah, like sometimes they'll reference and be like, the High Lord looked,
yeah.
But then when we're talking about Feyre, it's just like Feyre looked.
Yeah, exactly.
Or his mate looked.
Yeah.
There's how they reference Feyre as his mate, but they never reference Rhys as her mate.
Yeah.
This is possessive and gross.
No, and I don't know if it's ACOTAR feels very misogynistic within the world building wise and the whole mating thing, but it's so weird because Throne of Glass didn't feel this way. Or maybe I didn't think about it, like I don't know, but I was like, Throne of Glass did not come off this way.
No.
But ACOTAR does.
I feel like at the end of Throne of Glass, it made sense why Aelin's powers went away. Like it was a plot point that made sense. Like, she did that as a sacrifice, and she willingly did that. Like, Nessa did that, but it wasn't, like, this big, giant sacrifice that was going to, like, kill all of Prithian. Like, I felt like...
I think Aelin, I agree. Aelin's made sense. Everything since Aelin's has not.
Yeah. No,
sense of a female using her power since Aelin's has not.
And, like, let's be honest, Rowan is, like, he's, like, cool, but like on the coolness level, Aelin was always the coolest one, and then Rowan was like the sip that was like spouting after you.
I'll do whatever you want.
Love you, Rowan. But like,
no, very much so. Well, and I love it too because in Throne of Glass, it's addressed. In no other book is it addressed, but in Throne of Glass, there's the scene where it's her and Elide, and they're both taking a bath, and the lead is like, so like, how much did you lose? And I love this line, and Aelin's like, is your bath still warm? So it shows that she's still, I mean, like, it visually explains to the reader that her powers still exist and it is addressed. Whereas with Bryce or with Feyre and with Nesta, it's not, which is like,
yeah, no, I feel like sometimes, like, especially like her later books have been like more falling into the tropes that she has already established. It feels like she's kind of writing the same thing, just in different fonts, and even with her writing style as well. And I know that she's super busy. I don't know like what deadline
writing books.
Writing books, but I mean, I don't know her work schedule. I don't know her life. She's also a mom, but I have not read something unique by her ever since Throne of Glass.
Which shows Throne of Glass was fan fiction beforehand, or like it started on like one of those sites, and it started when she was like 15, so you can tell she flushed out that world. Whereas ACOTAR, I feel like she's just like, I'll just throw it in a pot and like do that.
I think it's that her like manager was like, you need to write another series, because you have 8 books and people and you need to, so I think that's why she wrote Throne of Glass, quite frankly. And she wanted to write about how hot her husband was, I think.
I think that, like, with these coming up books, which, not to, like, this just clicked, but not to, like, destroy anyone that's Elaine and Azriel fans, but Nesta changed her and Feyre's biology. She didn't change Elaine's. So clearly, Elaine is not going to be the one that ends up with Azriel.
Yeah.
And clearly, Elaine has a bigger...
I don't agree with that, just because that would mean that women are defined by their reproductive parts in a romantic relationship, and you can still be in a relationship without even wanting kids. And this also kind of would imply that they want kids. Whereas,
That's
like,
true.
to be fair, I will say that Sergei Mas has kind of like established this pattern where every woman wants to be a mom in this book. That also doesn't seem realistic, because like it almost seemed like Nesta didn't even want to be married.
Nesta has never shown any inkling to want to raise a child ever until the very end of Silver Flames, which is like, so you just threw this in here so she can be pregnant next book and you don't have to write about her. That's what it feels like to me.
Feel like, again, like, and it also feels like still like self-insert, like Sarah inserting herself in through Nesta this time, but it just, because like in A Court of Wings and Ruin, it felt like Nesta didn't want to belong to anyone, so she wouldn't even want to like get married, I guess. Like, she'd just be with Cassian, and they'd
and
be...
a kid is like tying you to someone.
Exactly. I just, maybe like if she did, I wouldn't expect for her to like have this conversation now. I would maybe expect this to be talked about like 500 years down the road,
like it was supposed to happen with Feyre.
Yeah, and that's another thing with Feyre, because like they had this conversation being like, we need to live together before we have kids. Also, another thing was like, I don't feel like Recent was saying, I'm not comfortable with you being pregnant while there's a war going on. There's still, technically speaking, like war going on. So that just chalks that up as well. Like, I'm not, like, I enjoy Feyre and Recent, but I wouldn't say like I'm a stan. But if I was a stan, I'd be really pissed, because I feel like the stans like they got dirty. Like Kayla's just like
I was
now too, because it's like that child is gonna have a terrible childhood. I mean, it's gonna be raised in wartime.
Like Rhys was.
Yeah, just like Rhys was. So you think Rhys would want better for his children?
Yeah.
You think?
And like, you're telling me that Aelin flew through the sky at this time? Like,
right now?
More of Aelin.
What do you mean? Like, they seem pretty happy down in Valeris. Like, it seemed pretty calm. But you're telling me she just yeeted through the sky during this time?
I did forget. That's when she yeeted, because one of them was really pregnant. Yeah. Does that happen in the Facing chapter that they see?
No, I don't. No, it's never mentioned again. And that's my thing, is like, if you're gonna connect worlds, and my thing was like, when Aelin fell through the sky, Rhys was just like, Rhys and the Inner Circle would have literally been like red alert. There is an intruder falling in the sky.
Right. Well, and also I think Rhys, in all of his infinite knowledge and wisdom and power, would have known that was not of this world. So you would think he wouldn't just be like, oh, bye. Like,
he's like, I don't know, Aelin, get out. Okay, that's fine.
Talks about this in her live with Steph, and Sarah said that she wrote like a 3-page chapter in Rhysand's point of view where we did see that. Rhysand helps her, like he knows that that's someone who needs help. Somehow he senses it with his power and a knowledge, and he helps her. But it was 3 pages, so like she didn't include it, and she thought like it would be weird with narration. But yeah, we don't like, but he doesn't explain it to everyone, which is why we kind of don't know it from Nesta and Cassian.
Right.
Yeah.
I
went on like a whole rant about like Amarin and like where Amarin comes from, because when Silver Flames, when A Court of Silver Flames, the title was released, I was reading one of the Throne of Glasses, and I think it was probably one of the last. They mentioned Silver Flames so many times in that book.
In the end, yes, they do.
And like the big battle on the when they're in the boat, and like Sandra's like in the water as like the water thing, and
in Pirate in Skulls Bay.
Yeah, Pirates. Yeah, and Aelin goes up and it's like battling whatever this Deanna. She is covered in silver flames. I like went over this, and I was like in my room at like 4 a.m. like running around like putting this together, because why would Sarah use silver flames and silver flames here, and then Amarin knows so much about Nesta's power and the cauldron. And when Amryn bursts in the sky during the final battle, what is she? A ball of light of silver flames. But
Amryn is Deanna. I have a theory that Amryn is Deanna.
I 100% feel like Amryn is from Terracin, or like
I agree.
Like, because I think she started there, and when the world like ripped apart and like the portals, she got left in Prithian and was just like vibing, and then got locked up. Because also,
I agree.
How did like the whole Amryn thing is always very confusing to me, because no one ever gets out of that prison, but Amryn just was able to convince Rhys to be like, let me out, like,
let me out, babe.
And also let me be your second.
Yeah,
like,
well, and I wonder if because if Amryn is from Terracin, I wonder if she told him about everything, which is why he didn't freak out when he saw Aelin, because he knows there's multiple universes, and he knows what happens in the Terracin timeline. So he knows that was Aelin, or you know, however Amryn described her. And he knew that his part in all of that was like guiding her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think Sarah needs to commit to exploring that. I mean, she made it canon, so she needs to commit to it.
I really felt like we were gonna get more of that in A Court of Silver Flames. Like, I honestly thought that something was going, not necessarily Aelin or any of like the main characters from Terracin were gonna like realm jump or something like that. But I thought we were going to have to use like the history of Terracin, or the history of, even if it wasn't named that, to figure out Nesta's powers, because I don't really feel like we ever even got a handle on what Nesta's powers were. Like, yeah, he's like, they're death, and I'm like, okay, dramatic, like,
okay, but what? Yeah, right.
Like,
yeah.
But like, what can she do with them?
I love the descriptors of flames that burned cold.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that. I thought that was really cool. And when she has the nightmare, I loved that whole scene about, I mean, how we make Rhys's powers be like the end all be all, the most powerful being in Prithian, and it takes him and Cassian and Azriel to stop Nesta from freaking out in that nightmare that she had. So I think Nesta's power level was insane.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense for her to have used it all.
Yeah.
Then it just gets taken away before we even get to explore anything.
And I think too that the Trove itself holds power, so she was also using the Trove's power. So she wasn't even using, like, the power she harnessed to heal Pharaoh was not only her own power.
Yeah.
So I feel like even at like whatever she is now, half power or whatever she's at, I still think she's the most powerful being in Prithian. I really honestly do, because she's the only one that can wield the Trove. I mean, I'll fight for her every day of the week.
I feel like, also, how do you give back power to a broken cauldron? Like,
yes,
it's not full. Like, yeah, I think they put it back together, but it's probably never going to be what it was.
Yes,
obviously. And if Elaine still has some of her, she 100% has her seer abilities, and she's just like,
I think she's hiding it,
have this vision. Like, yeah. So I think Nesta's powers like may seem like they're gone, but maybe they're still there. They're there. There's no way that much power could just vanish.
Right.
Because I feel like if that much power was ripped out of her, it would have killed her. Like,
agreed. And it also says that like Nesta called forth and summoned the mother.
Yeah, like
doing that, and the mother
called her up. She was like, "Hey,"
right? She's like, "Hey, babe," yeah. and the mother literally put her hand on Nesta's shoulder and let her retain some of that power. So we now know that the literal god of this universe has blessed Nesta and is on Nesta's side and is like Nesta's BFF.
I really like that. I did. That's the only portion of that entire scene that I know.
I was like, okay, so Nesta's a god. Got it.
Yeah.
Following. She's a demigod now. Following.
Oh yeah, like Sarah, let me just write you.
No, love it.
I'd use that against Rhys in fights. Rhys would be like, say something. I'm like, but are you friends with the mother?
But are you friends with the mother?
I love
Has the mother
that.
ever
Oh my
touched
gosh.
you? No, she can touch me.
I will literally text her. I will text her.
I love too how we now made the mother like physical being or have like a spiritual form and make her more like a deity instead of just like an abstract concept. I really liked that, and I think that's definitely going to come into play later in the books. I really listen. Maybe it's because I'm a loser, but I really think that Nesta is going to be a really pivotal part of all this because the mother
said that in the live. Sarah said that they will still play a big role in the war, and that like they will still have their chapters. And she said that like the last book is supposed to be kind of like Kingdom of Ash, like multi-point of views. So I'm really excited to see what Nesta does, and I really hope that she kind of personalizes her own powers, because she kind of keeps on saying that it reminds her of that. But what she's been doing with her powers is for the living. So it's like, while it may be that. So I hope that Sarah realizes that and kind of makes it kind of like Nesta's own with its own purpose. Also, someone said the swamp scene when Cassian and Israel bowing to Nesta. Can we talk about that? Can we? Because I love that scene too.
Yes.
Yeah, that was my favorite scene when she comes out of the water with the mask. And,
Yeah.
like, the army of the dead.
I was like, that is
and they
literally
her.
so badass.
We
I
stand.
That was
With the
partially
mask.
because, yeah, I think that was partially because she wasn't Nesta at that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the power of the mask and like her own power, like her eyes went white. I think she wasn't all Nesta at that point, which is why they bowed. Like if it was just
They
Nesta,
bowed down to death.
yeah,
but
they bowed down to death.
Also been kind of like Nesta and Death have been kind of like interchanged as the same thing.
BFFs, yeah.
That's all another thing. But
Best friends with her with Death too. Look at that, just bring them up all on speed dial.
like, excuse me.
Tea parties with Death of the Mother. She's like,
yeah, right. Well, and that is so interesting because Nesta has connections to literally Death and the Cauldron and the Mother and now the entirety of the dreaded Trove. And she has, if she isn't the most powerful being, she has access to become the most powerful being. And I don't.
I hope she takes it. I don't like. I would
too. I kind of want her to be like, okay, well, you guys can fight with your little swords, and I'll use the entire magical trove.
like, I'm on the big own court.
Right? She's gonna be like, we're gonna have our own court. It's gonna be called the Death Court, and
I stand. Yes, please. Yes, please.
I feel like
posters.
on taking people's power away to keep Rhysand the most powerful being, and that is what's really annoying me because he's clearly
That's what got me too. Yep.
Yes.
Favoritism. Obviously, Rhys is her favorite character. I mean, obviously.
Because of Josh. Because Feyre is a self-insert for Sarah, and Josh. I mean, Rhysand is a self-insert for Josh.
So she would never. So she would never let any. Right. No, she would never like. She would never call out Rhys for the behavior that he displays because Rhys is Josh. And not saying that she wouldn't call out Josh, but I'm just saying that like because Rhys is her favorite character, like of course she's not gonna have anyone call Rhys out. Of course she's gonna have Rhys getting got every weekend. Of course she's gonna have Rhys be like this playboy. I mean, like so it's just it's hard to be objective when the author isn't even objective. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's so true. No, I'm learning some great lessons as a writer.
Yes. Reading Sarah J. Maas's work is like a masterclass in writing.
It really is.
What to do, but also a lot of the time for what not to do.
Yeah. I mean, like her writing wise, I do like how she just like general like writing. I don't like how she kind of like keeps on using the like same phrases, but I do like, you know, I can follow the narration pretty easily. I don't like it when she does information dumps. I'm literally still, like, I can't do that.
I know. All the mythology we were given, I'm like, this is out of nowhere just so you can write another book. Like, that's what this is.
No, definitely.
He literally could have taken like half of this out and we still would have been fine.
Yeah.
There were so many like things that I was just like, why are we continuing this storyline? We don't need this.
Yeah. I just felt like there were so many loose ends that, like, if she could have taken out, like, some of the sex scenes and, like, for instance, they never talked about the war. Like, Nesta, like, literally lying on top of Cassian. I'm like, shouldn't that be something they talk about?
That disappointed me. I was hoping for that conversation.
Like, that didn't happen. It's fine. Like,
well, and that was such a big moment. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, you go.
I was just gonna say that was just that was a big pivotal moment in Nesta's character arc in the last
It
book,
was.
and Cassian's. That
Yeah.
was such a big moment in their interpersonal relationship, and this book pretended like it never happened, which is disappointing and sad and not right.
I agree. Just because
Two different people. Like those people, and like yes, war changes you, but they were just totally different people.
The Cassian from the war never would have fucked and ducked Nesta. Never.
Yeah, I agree.
Never.
No, he was very caring of her and very protective of her. And while he still seemed protective, he didn't seem as caring. And I don't know, I guess like with Nesta, I just feel like it kind of like, I mean, she explains this too, but that just felt out of character for me when like Nesta was like, not having you as my punishment, because she also talks about how Cassian, like she, says like in Akasef, I'm just expecting for Cassian to get bored of me and leave, but she's also saying that's why I wasn't with you. So it's like,
make up your mind.
I'm trying to like say my words here, but it counteracts each other because Nesta's thinking that Cassian doesn't actually care about her, but then the other phrase indicates that Nesta knows about it and that's her punishment.
Exactly. I feel like also what Beth was saying, Cassian like would never have, I feel like he would have never agreed to the just sex thing.
No.
Like,
he would have treated sleeping with Nesta like a religious experience.
Yeah.
Because that's what it was for him. That's
well,
what it
and
is.
They say the mating bond clicked in this book. That is a bold-faced lie. I 100% I think it clicked right before they went to the Court of Nightmares in the last in Akawar. I was like, there was a moment and I was just like, that is the mating bond. And you're telling me that I'm wrong?
Like, no, we're not. You're right.
I'm like, Sarah, you're wrong. I know you wrote the book, but you're wrong.
You wrote the book, but you're wrong. And that's the other thing I get a lot is people are like, you can't critique Sarah's writing because it's her characters and her world. And it's like, as soon as you make that public, it's not yours anymore. Like, you wrote it, but it now belongs to the people who consume it because it wouldn't exist without the people who consume it.
Oh, 100%. I just going back to what I was saying about the box, I was pissed. I was like, really? That was what was in the box?
What even
That's
was
lame.
it? Like
I don't even remember what was in the box.
It was
stupid. It was something.
It was a first manuscript mini book that he threw into the lake.
Which is also completely ridiculous because the box is like this big.
Yeah, I know.
Tell me how a mini book fits in that.
Yeah.
I guess it's like this big.
Marving.
Like, how are we gonna read that? She's like,
literally.
She's like, Reese, can I borrow your powers to read this?
No, but I'm totally with
your wingspan.
Yeah, literally.
But I'm totally with Beth when she said that, like, when you publish it, like, it's kind of like belongs to the readers as well. Like, in the sense that, like, that's like same behavior to say that you can't criticize things that are out there, just because if we didn't criticize these things, we can normalize things that should not be normalized or excuse or ignored. Like, again, like ignoring these things makes you complacent with these ideas that should not be normalized. And I mean, like, I don't know, I just feel like maybe these are like the younger readers because, like, when you go throughout these history classes, you kind of like find out how important words and these documents were. Like, Enlightenment, it's completely based on these documents and how they influenced people so much. And when people are making this book their entire personality, clearly we should be talking about it.
Yeah. And the fact that like the people who are making it their entire personality are the same people who are going to say that we can't criticize it. Which again, it's because you relate so personally to it, is you take critiques of the work as critiques of yourself. So it again is just, you need to separate yourself from characters and separate yourself from work, because if you are too invested in it, you're going to take everything personal, which turns into people making Gwen Real hate accounts, and that's not okay.
We don't want that. We don't want that. We don't that. Nope.
I've never been in a fandom, and I've been in a lot of fandoms, where it's been so cutthroat. Like, you look at like the Twilight books. Like, you look at the Twilight books. We roast those books so hard, deservedly so. But like, or like the Mortal Instruments, roast those so hard, and no one gets about that.
My sister, my blood. No, okay, I'm just kidding. That was me quoting Studio. Anya, I literally have that quote memorized. Okay. But no, I think it's, like, we can talk about how incest plotline is disturbing in Mortal Instruments, whereas
Yes.
about how sexual assault is wrong in ACOTAR.
It started off also as
the fandom and the group just confuses me. I think that's the only way to highlight is like it's just there's no like I don't know what I'm trying to say. I get very confused, and I think saying that the ACOTAR fandom is cutthroat is very accurate.
Yeah.
Very accurate.
So I want to ask you guys then, are you planning on being less active in the fandom with all this toxicity? I mean, Bethany, your entire content is on it. I know that's a bit more of a hard.
I have been thinking about changing my username, both on TikTok and on Instagram. And it's not just because the fandom is the way that it is. It's just because that I don't think Sarah J. Maas's work represents a lot of the things that I want to represent.
Yeah.
And so I have no idea when or what I'm going to change it to. I don't even know if I will. I mean, that's not true. I am going to, but I just don't know when. I don't know what it'll be. But yeah, I just feel like her work is taking a turn to a place that I'm not willing to follow.
Yeah.
That being said, though, I'm still going to cosplay specific characters. Like, I'm going to cosplay Nesta and I'm going to cosplay Bryce. Because those two characters specifically stand for things that I stand for.
Yeah.
But just like overall content creation, personally, probably going to be doing a lot less. Yeah. Won't stop critiquing though, because as long as there are people who are stands, there are people that have to critique it, because we have to use the voices that we're given and the platforms that we're given for good. So
yeah. I think I've kind of stepped away in general about stuff. I think I come from a place where I get really nervous to say anything in any sense, because
Kayla knows what you're talking about.
Calling me out like that.
And I feel like this sounds like weird, but I don't want to say something wrong and then people immediately be like, well, you wrote a book, like you should know better, you should do this. Like, I've seen so many authors just get called out for things that like they've just misspoke, or they clarify that. They're like, I misspoke, I didn't mean it like this, I meant it like this. And then their careers are like
the redemption is gone.
Yeah, the redemption's gone. And like I get nervous about saying stuff or like doing stuff like that. So I've stepped away in general from book talk, because I also feel like a lot of like I'm 25, like I'll be 25 in April. I have seen that a lot of like teens will be like, you don't get to have an opinion because these books aren't written for you. But I'm like, but this is my career. So like these are written for me because
you're part of it.
Like I write them. So I don't know. Book talk has gotten really like, you are on either this side or this side, and if you like,
and it's polarized.
Those are the people that are the loudest, but it's not realistic, because a lot of people fall in the middle where they can acknowledge the good and the bad.
It comes down, to like being able to criticize and critique while still find enjoyment. Like, just because you consume a piece of media doesn't mean that you're a be all end all on any part of the spectrum. And I know for myself, I definitely have had to take a step back, taken a step back from the ACOTAR fandom. Beth knows, she called me out earlier. It just got to a point where it's very toxic and triggering for myself. Being so well known for Feyre came with just like a lot of stuff, and I'm so thankful for it. But like in the future, I am taking a step back. I am in the process of doing that. Like, obviously, ACOTAR, Feyre's story, is a very big part of me and how I'm still here today. But like, I am more than Feyre.
Yeah.
I am more than having to strictly make ACOTAR content. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it definitely does. I completely agree. I'm on the same page. And also, like, I feel like when we kind of like focus on ACOTAR, we're kind of almost always in the world, no matter what we're reading. And that's almost like a disservice to those other authors and the works that we're, because there's so many other amazing books, worlds out there, characters. Like, my new favorite one, also someone asked about, like, will you guys share your favorite non-Sarah J. Maas books? My favorite one right now is An Ember in the Ashes.
So good.
It's so good.
So good.
And
Not
it's like,
much.
To read it.
talk about these books as well and these worlds kind of enjoyed, because as a reader I kind of see myself as a traveler, and I don't want to stay in any place for too long, and I feel like I've already stayed in Akatar for a little
That's very
while,
true.
and the main reason why I stayed in it was for Nessa and Cassian, and now that their story's mainly over, whether I liked it or not, I'm just like, bye.
And I think there's like nothing wrong with that. And I think it also, like, Book Talk is a very pressure place where a lot of content that gets consumed, I've almost found that people like to try to dictate what you're allowed to and not like dive into, or like just like in general.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
It does. Like, people are trying to monitor other people's like reading habits and like what they're reading, and it just seems like, you know, like, we're adults or we're our own persons and we can make our own decisions. Like, I'm not gonna let a stranger on the internet tell me what to do. And
Yeah.
like, yeah, I don't know why people are getting so entitled over like creators, because like, we're here for fun. Nobody's making us be here. Like, I can just leave. And I feel like if you have such strong opinions, make a video yourself, because these are usually private accounts with no pictures. Like, they're using something else. And I'm just like, you know, if you're this opinionated, rather than bullying creators, create a video to spread your message.
Or people, which I feel like we Book Talk or some creators have been interacting with, have been trying to make a point of this as well, is like, instead of making videos trying to bash creators that you disagree with and like be like, oh my gosh, they need to be canceled or whatever, like, use that in your voice for like good, like, recommend books with better diversity. Like, so many people focus on like, it's almost like a witch hunt on BookTube and on Akatar of just decimating people and creators. And then it's like, yeah, we need to have those conversations, but like, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
No, I do get what you're saying. Again, like, kind of seeing nuances and kind of like focusing our energy with like, the problems with this book is lack of diversity.
Yeah.
So talk about books with
But
diversity.
talk about better options, or people being like, oh, well, I hate it. Okay, so then like recommend something else.
Yeah.
Like, you're not forced to talk about Akatar. You're just using your voice just to complain versus doing something proactive to recommend authors that are underrated in these worlds that are arguably better or more established, or whatever you want to get into in that. Like, it kind of comes down to people just like getting into that like attack mode versus like something good coming from it.
And I would say too, there's a difference between attack mode and like education mode.
Yes.
So like,
yes,
you can sit here and like bash whatever you want to bash all day long, but if you're not going to be like, I don't like it because of this reason, and this reason, we can't normalize this behavior, this is not okay. I feel like if you're gonna use energy, use it for good.
Yes.
Which would be to recommend a different book, or to give specifics as to what behavior is not okay.
Have that conversation.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, you suck, tag people who you think are horrible in the comments. Like, have you guys seen those videos?
No.
Like, some people's entire accounts is them just being like, tag like Akatar creators because they're obviously like da 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 da. And I've gotten tagged throughout the months on those. Yeah, of people being like, you suck, you're horrible, without any explanation. You know, like.
Yeah, the only time that I've been like, oh wait, go ahead, Allison.
Oh, I would comment back and be like, would you like to have a conversation in the DMs about why you feel this way? Because obviously I've done something to hurt you. And they'll tag me back and they'll be like, you just read Akatar. I was like, well, I don't just read Akatar, but okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I think I've been like doing okay the past few months as I've kind of like isolated myself from the fandom, and that's kind of what I realized. The fandom is so toxic once I did
take a step back. Yeah.
Looking at it from the outside is like very telling.
Yeah, and it's just like, when you're looking at the outside, you're just like, what's the point? It's just a book. Like, at the end of the day, it is just a book. These things are not real, and it just seems so sad to me to see like people like actually have panic attacks. People like literally delete their entire accounts because they've gotten bullied. I mean, I was kind of in yeah, like I was kind of in a situation where like a 30-year-old was low-key bullying me, and I was just like, you're 30 years old. I was like, don't you I don't know. I was just like, this seems a little extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird to see like kind of these older people also like come out.
Or even younger too. Like, I guess everybody needs to be held accountable in that too. And there's people from all groups and spectrums that are contributing to this toxic environment. But I've also seen people or like smaller creators say one half wrong thing and just get decimated, destroyed, no option for having those conversations for learning.
Yeah. I feel
And
like
listening. Does that make sense?
I feel like we kind of go through these cycles in book talk where something bad happens. People are like, we clearly need to change things up, and then nothing's get changed because it's an opportunity for tearing down people rather than spreading information and being like, okay, so clearly we're missing something here. So let's make educational videos, or maybe let's recommend books that does this. It's rather than it's just attacking people, and that's not going to help anyone with anything. And I also disagree with really attacking anyone, even if what they said was problematic. I believe in having conversations about it. I've kind of realized that the people who have gotten attacked, one of them used to be my mutuals, and I know that she went into panic attack that night, and some of them got very suicidal over this. And that's not like, if I
that toxic environment, it's
wrong, you need to take a step back. Yeah. Just because people do like really get hurt from this.
Yep. And I think that's what people don't realize is that when you comment those things, when you tag, when you just blatantly try to do stuff like that, there's consequences.
There are, yeah.
And maybe that's just because like I'm a sensitive person, I have anxiety, and social media, it's a whole thing. Again, Beth can attest to this. God bless you, Beth. But it's just people not realizing that there's consequences to this toxic actions, to these toxic attacks that lack that understanding of respect. Of hearing sides of stories, and of listening to the voices that matter and that are being marginalized in this case, oftentimes the ACOTAR and diversity, or like there's just no room for educational conversations.
I agree.
A lot of the time when we talk about ACOTAR and diversity, people who are those stands and who are the toxic members of the community are the ones who say, well, she doesn't need to include diversity in her book. Why does she, it's like, it's just like you're so far removed from this,
That's
like
true.
It's almost like there's no getting through to those kind of people, because
which
they
is
don't
hard.
they don't even understand the concept of diversity,
Yeah,
so
I feel like. Oh, go ahead, Beth.
No, I was just gonna say when you come across those people, I mean, it's really difficult to handle that and to know what to say or do because there's just no getting through to them. Yeah.
This is what I say. It's that. So we live in a diverse world, right? Whenever you write a book that only has certain group of people, and especially like these are fantasy worlds, so these are idealized words. So are you telling me that in your fantasy idealized world there is only white
people?
Like that's scary, and that is internalized racism and homophobia, etc. Because then you are erasing people from the narrative based on skin color and sexuality and other like kind of identifiers. I guess that's the way that I explain it. Also, another thing is that I don't think people realize that like reading diversely just really enriches your whole reading experience. So for instance, like I kind of see it as traveling. Like when I traveled for the first time when I was a kid, I went to Germany and I loved kind of seeing different types of food, different types of culture and custom. And it felt like it was so good. Like I never wanted to leave, but then I left and I saw more places and I loved it. And that's kind of how I view reading diverse books, because I kind of see different norms, foods, cultures, and perspectives. Whereas if you kind of read from the same white author who's writing about white straight characters, you are seeing the same perspective over and over again. And like, doesn't that get boring? Because that gets boring to me.
Yes.
Which is why it's so important to read authors who aren't Sarah J. Maas.
Yeah.
And to read diverse authors writing diverse books. A lot of time people be like, if you're not reading Sarah J. Maas, like you're not really like a book talker, or like if you're not, and I'm like, what?
There's more to book talk, and there's more to books than just Sarah J. Maas. Like as much as I love it, and again has a special place in my heart, like ACOTAR is not the best series. It is not the be all end all. It's like no, like I'm
like when I got into it because of quarantine. And everyone was talking about it on Book Talk. And I was like, well, I have the first one on my shelf. I guess I'll read this because everyone's talking about it. She writes entertaining books. But she doesn't write the best books of all time.
That is true.
I mean, everyone's opinion on what the best book of all time is, like, sorry, I'm watching her talk to Toby, and I'm like...
Sorry, he's being really cute. He's being very distracted.
Oh my god, we love Toby. Toby's the best.
Toby. That's why I was like, Toby.
I'm so sorry. Did you hear him? He did make a noise.
We stand you. But everyone's best book of all time isn't going to be your best book of all time.
Which is so amazing because everybody reads books differently, has these like and that's what I love. Is just there's so many options. Like there's so much more. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm notorious for saying like I like trash things. Like I'm a trash person who like
trash panda
trash movies. Like literally, like I admit it, and I'm not ashamed of it. But at the same time, I'm not going to admit like Sarah J. Maas is the best writer of all time. Like maybe it's someone else, but and I think that also like when I was on Book Talk and Writer Talk, I definitely got into a mindset where I was like, I have to write like Sarah J. Maas to be successful. I have to be this way to be successful. And I was writing my Scottish folklore, and I was like, I have to be like Sarah J. Maas. This has to be, no one's going to read it. And then I stepped back and I was like, no, like you don't have to do that.
Which is like, I think highlights like that's just like a very dangerous mindset that is constantly being cultivated. Which then, like, I feel like challenges of like, what can we do to help shape that narrative in a different light? Does that make sense? But then, like, it brings up the question, like, how much I don't know.
No, I think I agree, Kayla. Oh, wait, go ahead, Bethany.
No, you can go. You can go.
I was just gonna say, like, I think as creators, we definitely, because like we have a platform, we can influence that by talking about these topics as well as kind of like uplifting other voices in our conversations. Because I feel like the people that kind of keep on complaining about ACOTAR and Throne of Glass kind of being upfront, you were making it stay relevant. Talk about
that is true. That's kind of like the earlier conversation. Sorry, I totally interrupted you. Of just like, if you're gonna hate it, then let's have a conversation and let's recommend a better option.
Because the way to move on from it is by talking about other things, not by talking about like the critiques of it, because it hasn't gotten us anywhere so far. It's clearly not working.
She's clearly not listening to us.
Yeah.
I think too that it just shows how massively monopolized the young adult literature genre is, and and that's not okay. That it's monopolized by a white straight woman who's attempting.
It's not going to change. Like,
who hasn't changed? I think too. Like, I haven't read the Six of Crows, I haven't read Six of Crows, and I haven't read Cruel Prince. But those are the only two that come to mind when I'm like young adult, and I can't think of anything.
I honestly did not enjoy Cruel Prince and Shadow and Bone that much. But again, like my recommendation, one of them would be An Ember in the Ashes. If you still haven't read, They Both Die at the End. They Both Die at the End is a great YA book.
That book literally wrecked
me.
If you want a book that will wreck you, please read that one.
Guess what? They both die at the end.
Guess what?
The title of the book.
These Violent Delights, that's on my shelf. My next read. I'm so excited. And I'm also going to read Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I think that might be new adult though, but I am making like recommendation videos if anyone needs diverse recommendations that are from like different backgrounds. I also have a Google Doc in my bio with just book recommendations.
We love that. We love that.
Yes.
So, but I completely agree. Like as a writer myself, I'm still a college student, but I am writing a book. I kind of started freaking out when I started doing beta reading. I'm a beta reader for a Fae book right now that's awful lot like ACOTAR. And I'm just like, am I doing something wrong? Because my book is like nothing like it. I'm just like, I'm writing about pirates. I'm building the patriarchy and then destroying the patriarchy. And I'm like,
obsessed.
And again, because those are the books that are being baited, that just shows the monopoly that she has.
Yeah. Like, and I felt scared. I was like, am I doing something wrong? When I started like reading everyone's books and I started kind of seeing that they were all like geared towards ACOTAR with Faes, I was like, me writing about like pirates. I was just like, am I doing something wrong?
Well, and I think that's almost scary of how that mentality has just become such a norm that so many people don't even notice. And that's terrifying.
There's also like, there's plagiarism. There's so much plagiarism. Like, I don't believe that any author should be plagiarized regardless of whether they have done problematic things or not. Just because like that's literally destroying the reading and writing community. And I'm seeing so many people plagiarize ACOTAR and Sarah J. Maas now, and I don't think that's right at all.
Yeah, so the book I'm writing has Fae in it. And I had a mental breakdown because I was like, this is Fae. Everyone's writing about Fae. But it doesn't make sense because it's on the Scottish folklore of the fairy flag. So like they're fairies. So I just have changed, like I do not say Fae in my book. I don't talk about like, they're not like Sarah J. Maas Fae. They're not Holly Black Fae. They're very different, and they're just called the Scottish word for Fae. So
we love that. Yeah.
Out because I was like, everyone's writing this, but I know like us as readers can try to change like the monopolization of it, but it all comes down to the book industry and
what they publish.
Interned in the book industry when 2018 going into 2019, I was talking to someone at Disney Hyperion, and they were like, agents are looking for witch books. Guess what's all coming out now? Witch books. And I'm like, I see it now. They all get in their mind like, this is going to be the new big thing. And I'm like, maybe you should listen to the readers and figure out what the new big thing is. Yeah. And I don't know. I think that I stopped recommending books on Book Talk because I didn't feel like anyone was seeing them. Like no one cares because every book I recommend is like from like a small indie publisher or like something that's like not super popular. And people are like, what is that? Like one of my favorite books of all time is The Violet Theory by Elodie Ivor. I am friends with her, but it's so good. It's like Pirates of the Caribbean meets like fantasy world. It's so good. And I'm reading the second book right now, and I'm like, I want everyone to know about this.
I just wrote it out. I'm gonna check it out. But
like, I love her so much, and she writes beautifully. But I feel like anytime I recommend like something that's not ACOTAR or not in that sense, people are like, I don't want that.
Yeah, don't
right now like steamy romance is like a really big thing, and I'm like, I just don't read romance, and like I don't read like erotica, like that's just not my jam. But everyone
read A Court of Silver Flames though.
That's true. That's true. And I was not prepared sitting at my 9-to-5 job being like,
and again, there was no warning. There's no warning. You know.
There definitely needs to be.
Yeah, she definitely like when she was like, this is the spiciest book I read. I did not think it was gonna be like
she downplayed it so much.
And then there's Sarah J. Maas's version of spicy. Like, I could not believe because once we got to that one point of like it started, it was like every chapter, and I was just like, okay, I'm getting bored now. Like, this isn't realistic.
It's sex for the sake of sex, not for the sake of like character development or plot development or like anything useful.
Yeah. Time I was zoning out during it, and I'd have to rewind it to be like, what happened?
There's definitely a couple times when like it happened, and I'm like, okay, this is gonna be about a page and a half, and I honestly just skipped it because I know what happens. I know Cassian tops, and I know it's vanilla. Like it's boring.
Although everyone says it's not.
Fun. It's boring.
Everyone's like, it's so spicy, and I was like,
maybe about that.
Romance books.
It's so boring.
Yeah,
it's so boring, dude.
I mean, if I want to read that stuff, I read Wattpad, and there's a reason why I don't pay for that. That I read that for free.
Yeah. To each their own, you know.
Yeah. I definitely like, and now like the whole new book coming out, they're like, Azrael is like such a freak with his shadow hands. I'm like, is he though? Is he?
I really wish that. One thing, too, that I haven't really spoken about this because I've been formulating my thoughts, but I think we need to set a higher sexual expectation. I think that when, again, kids, minors, read this book, they think a fucking duck is acceptable because Cassian did it over and over and still ended up with that stuff.
Yeah.
So they think that that is acceptable behavior. And they think that no aftercare is okay. And they think that no safe words are okay. And
which is a very dangerous thing to think is okay.
Scary. And so I think we need, in our writing, to set a higher sexual expectation for a healthy sexual relationship. Because Cassian and Nesta and Rhys and Feyre do not have a healthy sexual
relationship. But I just want to know, when is your first book coming out?
when can we expect? Where's the sign up? Pre-order?
Well, you guys know I've done Akadad. I stopped though because the book came out, but people really want me to get back to writing Akadad, so I'm going to do that. Please. And then
you don't make me cry in my car at least 3 times.
I'm so sorry, but
you were all alive once, and you were like reading the scene, and I just literally was like, in the half price book
Little.
parking lot.
Listen, I'm not going to toot my own horn or anything, but I am going to say, I'm going to say this and people are going to be pissed at me, but I'm going to say it. Cassie and Nesta's relationship, development, and like getting to know each other and like healing from trauma was very well done in my book. And I'm not going to say anything.
Oh, really well done. I completely
Yep. No complaints here.
That's
Yes.
that's the best writing I've ever done, and I'm so proud of it.
Yeah.
And to see that a literal published author not address any of the really heavy things that an inexperienced loser from Iowa addresses, I don't understand how she didn't think that those things were important to address.
I like half wonder if she lives in like her own like little fantasy world where she doesn't read reviews, she doesn't go on Twitter, everyone around her just tells her that everything's fine, whereas like
live that she doesn't check these type of things because of she said that she is isolated from the fandom, but she's also friends with Steph, and Steph is very much part of the fandom. Like she sees.
But does Steph tell her?
Yeah,
that's the question. Which I feel like I understand as somebody like who struggles with anxiety and different things, like isolating yourself sometimes is what you need to do. But when you're at such a large scale and you're impacting so many voices and there are so many issues, I feel like it's naive to think that you can continue to live in that bubble and not be called out for it.
Right.
Yeah. And I think Sarah doesn't like read reviews, obviously, because most authors don't. And like people come for authors who read reviews. I'll say it right now, and I made a video about it. I read my own reviews. I don't care.
Why is that a bad thing? Why do people come for offers?
People say that the reviews are for readers, but in my mind, I'm also a reader. Like I'm also just as much in the book community as I am in the author community. So people get mad when authors read reviews. And I don't see it as a bad thing, because any review that I get, I take it as constructive criticism and I take it into consideration. Now, there are some reviews that are like, this wasn't written for me, and they rate me 1 star, and I'm like, well, then why did you read it? Like, obviously.
No, but like, I saw that. Somebody was saying that it wasn't like a new adult book, and I was like, you're reading a YA book. Like, I saw it in like your reviews while I was reading a review for Dark Radiance, and I was just like, you do realize that this is a YA. Also, like, we definitely need to like redefine what we should expect out of a YA.
Yes. Versus new adult, especially with like new adult kind of taking off and being like now, like we're understanding that there's like a line. And my Barnes and Noble that I go to sometimes actually removed ACOTAR from YA, and it's completely in the adult section.
When I got the books, they were in the YA section, and I read this as a senior in high school, so like I was, still growing up, but I was like, should this be in here? I was like
ACOTAR is in my high school's library, and I was like to the librarian, I was like, have you actually read those books? Because because our like high school and middle school was like connected through this library, right?
Oh yeah.
And I was like, there's like 5th graders coming through here looking at books right next to that series. What happens if one of them like opens it to the wrong page?
Yeah.
Like it's just
checks it out.
Or checks it out and brings it home. And what if it's like
Mr. Librarian?
Literally. So I was like, maybe you might want to pull these from the shelves or like rethink this or read them. Yeah. I was shook. That was my senior year of high school. Yeah.
I definitely, when I was a bookseller, was very cautious of what I recommended. I would go through, I had like a list of questions. My first was, how old are you? And then they give me that. What do you like to watch on TV? And like, what other books do you like? From there, my like, if it was a girl, my standard like one to like recommend was definitely a Marissa Meyer book, because they normally liked like that kind of book. And then I would go on, and then a lot of times the parent would be standing there, and I'd point to these ACOTAR books. I said, do not, like, these are very not much, they're upper YA. And I had to explain that to my aunt the other day and be like, don't let her read these because she's going to be scarred. I noticed that my Barnes & Noble, they still have some of the old covers and like the special edition of ACOTAR in the YA section, but all of the new covers and ACOSF are in the adult section. And my thing is you can't market a book for so long as a YA and then all of a sudden this one comes out and we're going to be adult now. That's
Yeah.
just not how it works. You have to stay in one genre. And that's like when I wrote Dark Radiance, I definitely knew that this was like 14 up. Like this is YA, like this was what I wanted to read in like my Twilight era, like that kind of thing. But like this new book is definitely going to be new adult. It's going to be more of like an adult version of the book because I've
Growing
grown
up with your audience. You know,
Yeah.
like, it's been several years now. Yeah. And I think, yeah, that is like kind of a struggle as a writer, though. I will say, like, I don't know what category my book belongs to, for instance. I wish that there were like a better defined expectations, just because it's also like you're entering a range when you may not belong in a range. Like, for instance, like YA, that's like 12 to 16, like, and your book might be 16, but that would still be in that range and it would not be suitable for like a 12-year-old to read.
Yeah, the old definition of YA was based on the characters' ages. So the characters in like ACOTAR are older than YA characters should be. I think Feyre's 17.
She's
Or-
19 at the beginning of the first book.
Yeah,
Okay,
she's
so
19 in ACOTAR.
This should have been an adult book or a new adult book
Right off the bat.
because of the age. But like in I don't know what's a book over here. Like City of Glass, Clary is 16, so she is that. But like, and then Harry Potter goes from he's 12 to 17, so that one goes from a certain amount is middle grade, and then a certain amount is YA.
Yeah.
So I think that we need to redefine the definition of what YA is, because at this point, people are wanting YA to be like all this steamy scenes, and I'm like,
that's not YA, baby.
When people complain about YA not being sexy, it bothers me because it's like it's not meant to be. Like a lot of these books feature minors.
Yeah.
And you want explicit sex scenes, like that's red flag.
That's
like,
a you problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad that we're having this conversation on Book Talk because I've seen a few creators talk about this, because this should be something that is talked about.
Yes.
Like, please don't normalize that.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it being in the book, but not explicit. Like, make it a fade to black. Like,
Yeah.
make it like very
Next
lukewarm.
episode. Yeah.
Like, we're not saying there can't be like nuances to it, because normal teens do that.
But like, there's like a line.
There's
But
a
you don't
line.
need to
There's not a
read
chapter
about-
55 moment in YA. Like,
Yes.
Definitely.
it's not. That's not how it should be. And
I
I've seen.
think people really blend together YA and new adult.
Yeah.
And that they're not the same thing. They're
They're
not
not at all.
the same
At
thing.
all.
Which I think is where a lot of people expect YA to be new adult.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is like false, not accurate at all.
That's because the book industry doesn't want to acknowledge new adult. The publishers will not acknowledge new adult, so they just lump it into YA, and it's like it's fine, it's just upper YA. But like new adult came about from like Jennifer L. Armentrout, who and like those kind of people who are hybrid authors where they self-publish their new adult books, and those are not adult and they're not young adult. They're in that middle area where it's still that fast pace, but the characters are at like my age or younger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think that if the book industry would
Catch
get
up
with us, then it would be okay. And that's why a lot of self-published authors are doing really well now, because there's a market for it.
Yeah.
Figuring out. Yeah.
And I feel like TikTok has been great for that, to amplify those voices, especially if like a big creator decides to like review your book for you or something. That's definitely a big plus, because I mean, like, for instance, Eamon's recommendation videos do so well.
Yeah.
Like if you're a self-published author and like you're able to like get a deal.
That can be a game changer.
Yeah, like exactly. Like you don't need a publishing house, because TikTokers can do it better, can do your marketing better than
Which I think is interesting, because like there's been a whole conversation on Book Talk. I don't know if you've heard a lot of the drama with like Book Talk versus BookTube, or like the power of Book Talk. Hold on.
I'm on both.
I have not.
We're both doing
I'm
fine. It's
uneducated
fine.
on this topic because I'm not part of BookTube or Book Twitter, so I don't know the beef, but I imagine it's scary.
It is. Yeah, it's just intense because it's a whole thing.
I don't understand why we all can't just coexist. We all love
Right?
books. We're all doing the same.
You would think like
Maybe I'm just old and wise and need to like hammer that in. But like, I don't understand why it's not this like the thing. And like, I've noticed on Book Talk, there's not that stigma because I don't think, especially younger kids, haven't grown up with the stigma of self-publishing and how like, oh, self-publishing is like for losers and like people who like can't get a book deal. But I'm just like, that's not the truth. And I think people are now realizing that, and it's gonna piss off a lot of publishing houses when they realize that. And I'm
But
just
it's
like,
gonna take them 10 years. I mean,
oh yeah,
it's gonna take them a hot minute to realize it, but I think that they are gonna realize that they are like losing out some real talent simply because they're picking these trends. And the thing I think like you have to realize writing is so subjective, and if you are trying to make it like a formula, it's not going to work out, or it might work out in the short term, but it definitely won't work out in the long term because you definitely need some like defying novels to find out what the new thing even is.
yeah.
How are you even going to get that if you just try to like control every single aspect of the market and what's being put out? Like
Exactly.
Yeah, and I know that like people who are querying right now, they are wanting big publishing houses, but I always recommend going for maybe a smaller one if you're not going to self-publish at first. Like I know I looked into Entangled Teen, and they take unagented manuscripts. You can send them in and look at like Crush and Crave, and all that series is huge, and they have a bunch of just best-selling books that are doing really well. And so just because you're with a smaller press doesn't mean you're not successful. And honestly, I feel like you're going to get more attention.
If you're a good writer, you're probably gonna like the readers are gonna find you eventually. But I will say there was this one series that I really enjoyed, and the publisher house dropped it, and I was like, why? It was Age of X series by Rochelle Maid, and now she's not really writing. Okay, here's some tea. Yeah, so Rochelle Maid is the author of Vampire Academy, and Jennifer L. Armentrout wrote Covenant series after Vampire Academy, and it is plagiarized from it, and she has been sued over it. So the lawsuit got dropped on technicalities. However, like as someone who has read both series, it is very much plagiarized with some exact paragraphs. It's not just the paragraphs that are the same.
I'm shook.
And world building as well. So I would recommend reading the original rather than the copycat because the original is always better. But I forgot where I was going with this. Totally. But anyways, that's the tea.
So fascinating.
So surprised by that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, because I like love Jennifer L. Armentrout's books, but now that you say that, I can't. Oh my gosh.
So she's been sued over it. And that is kind of why Rochelle Maid has also stopped writing because she has tried copying some of Rochelle Maid's other books as well.
Oh,
and now,
no. We ain't here for this.
Yeah,
Hold up.
No, I gotta throw my books away.
Now she's not writing anymore because of all this plagiarism that's going on without any consequences because these lawsuits are getting dropped on technicalities. And I also thought that this isn't really about, and I feel like I should talk about it because it seems like not a lot of people know about it because Rochelle Maid's an old author now.
Please talk about it.
Yes.
I'll
make a video about it.
Please.
I can't read the last book in the.
No, I mean, like, go ahead and read it. But like
that really sits sour with me. Like,
yeah, and
like
they're kind of like trying to filter that out from the media. There are a few posts that still have not been taken out, but yeah, like that was a whole ordeal. It's so like I can't believe another writer does that to another writer. Just because as a writer, would you want to be plagiarized?
Well, and it's such a competitive field that you would think you just like focus on yourself. You know?
Exactly, definitely.
I always say like every story has been told in some way. Make it your own. Like just like there are so many stories you can come up with. Just figure one out. Like
I think the only time that you fail as a writer is when you fail to convey your point of view, and the only time that you do that is when you plagiarize because then you're not talking about even your point of view. You're thinking about someone else's point of view. And then your only purpose with that book is probably fame or money. And if that's why you're writing, they don't seem like great reasons to write to me at all. Because writing should be about exploration and self-expression, or at least that's how I define it. It is different for everyone, but yeah, like I think the only time that you fail as a writer is when you plagiarize.
Someone said that the book Rhapsodic was plagiarized from
I heard that. I have not read that series.
I have read Rhapsodic. I read the first book.
That was enough. Kayla was like, that was enough.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about that, but
you're probably not gonna look into it.
Yeah, no.
Part of me wants to read it just so I can be like, okay, just so I can know.
Curious. Yeah.
I've never paid for money for it. If it's plagiarized, I will acquire it differently. But
yeah.
I acquired, Silver Flames was alternatively required by me. I didn't pay for it. I mean, I definitely paid for it. I'm not admitting to that. Where did Kayla go?
Kayla?
Hold on.
Back. Oh, hi. My wife just said it's not going to work. I'm back.
I noticed that a lot of books are the same exact book, but I also noticed a lot of published books. I'm like, how did this get published?
Oh my gosh, same.
How did this get a deal?
I was just like, literally how? I was just like, who enjoyed the I mean, okay, reading is very subjective. That was bad to say, but I was just, this sounds so bad. But my motivation for writing is I think about the book that I hated the most, and I'm like, if this book got published, so can mine.
That's a mood.
That's 100% B.
Yeah.
I don't think
yeah. I know the querying and getting an agent is so hard, and if your book isn't the thing right now, I got so many full reads for Dark Radiance, and then they'd come back and be like, we loved your book, but it's not in market right now. We're not looking for Fallen Angels. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just do it myself then.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of self-publishing. You don't have to listen to anyone. That's your world, your work. You don't have to follow a trend. And I mean, clearly publishing houses are missing out, just because I've seen a TikToker who was a self-published author who is now being picked up by some publishers because it did so well as a self-published book.
Yeah, a couple books did that. I know Zenith by Sasha Alsberg and Lindsay Cummings had that happen.
Mm-hmm.
But they had giant following, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah, that's also a cool thing about these book communities. You can get a following, and that could be helpful if you're a writer.
Yeah.
For later on.
I'm like, does Netflix want to pick something up? Because I have something for you. I heard you can pitch to Netflix, and I'm like, I'm too scared for that. But
pitch to Netflix?
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, if
you new ideas. So
yeah, you can email them, and if they want to meet with you, I think it's all through Zoom. You can pitch to Netflix. I had a friend do it, and I was like, I'd like to pitch to Netflix, but I want it my way. That's my thing. It's I want to make my book into a series, maybe a television series or a web series, but I want to do it my way. I don't want someone to ruin it. I want specific people for specific roles, and I wouldn't pull just random actors. I'd pull readers who are actually actors who want to do it. Mm-hmm. And that's the power of YouTube. You can do that now.
Yeah.
That was the plan before COVID, and then COVID happened, and fun. So
I'm excited for things to go back to normal, but I obviously want it to be done in a safe manner.
Yeah.
When we do go back to normal, though, I'm just literally with my book talk friends, I'm just we're meeting, FYI.
By the way, this is happening.
Me and Kayla live 40 minutes away from each other, and we didn't know until after COVID hit. And I was like, oh, it's so frustrating. So first thing when we're
Drive by and wave.
As I'm gonna jump down there.
I know.
And
I love traveling. So, well, I mean, like, I guess my closest book friend would be Eamon, and she lives in Chicago. I'm in Michigan. So she's not that far away from me, but my, I'm college in Michigan, and my parents, like, are in New Orleans. So I'm kind of close to Allison, to Arizona. Kind of.
I'm in the wild, wild west.
I know. I have a couple friends in Arizona too, so I just need to make a list and just like
Exactly.
meet everyone, you know.
I've always said I want to do like a book talk retreat, like with like.
That'd be so fun.
Oh.
I don't think Disney. I don't, because I've actually been thinking about that.
That would be fun.
That'd be so
We
fun.
invited the right people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like
let's be clear.
people, and like we could write in the mornings.
The
Oh
only way
my gosh.
that I sport is this.
I've always wanted to do like a writing retreat or something like that. The last like book thing I did was in 2019 when I went to Book Net Fest, and I'm like crying. I was supposed to, like, the month before COVID hit, I was supposed to go to Y'all West, and I had like my ticket booked, and I was so excited, and I had a media pass, and then COVID was like, nope.
There's in Toronto a something. It's not book related. It's just like a con of some kind.
Yeah.
That I have a couple friends who have tickets to, and I'm like, you are really optimistic.
Yeah.
You're very optimistic that this will be open by next year.
Yeah.
We'll
No, but
see.
for real, like when things like go back to normal and it's safe to do so, can we do a Disney retreat?
Yes, please. Yes,
I've never
please.
been.
Okay. I
Say
will actually
less.
plan this. I will-
Literally.
like Allison said, we can write or read or whatever you want to do in the morning, because afternoon, like, it's actually like less crowded. We'll have so much fun.
I love Disney.
Disney's less crowded in the afternoon.
Yes.
Yeah, because a lot of people
People
go
have
in
to
the
take
morning.
naps for their kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
that'll be so fun. But like that said, we have to have the right people. This can go
Yes.
real fast.
Yeah.
We can't invite the Gwen Real haters. Okay?
Yeah, no, they're not
Why
allowed.
not?
No.
Can't,
We can trade
you know,
it
it'd
on
be
our side.
interesting.
I will literally make a list.
I'll
right
make
now.
them
I
right.
will make a list of people.
Yes.
Get them a churro
Yes.
and they'll be my side.
I
Yeah, but
think
no.
okay, have you seen the meme that's like Socratic circle, ultimate goal, complete chaos, and then they like list people? I think that would be a Socratic circle with some book talkers would be a lot of fun if we could keep it just if we could not scream at each other. I think it'd be really interesting.
It would be vibes.
Definitely.
No, it'd be vibes.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people find it really easy to say things when they're not like we were going back to say, like, a lot of these accounts, no profile picture, no content, and they're just commenting like the nastiest, rudest things in the world.
Yeah.
If we got those people in a Socratic circle, I don't think they'd say very much.
They could do
Oh
their
no, nothing at all. They would be quiet. Because in my opinion, those people are the biggest cowards ever. Because you're hiding behind a screen.
They're arrogant.
And when you are actually confronted, you run.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I want to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But Arizona right now.
Really, anywhere.
Well, Arizona just lifted the mask mandate, so I'm like, I gotta
Survival of the fittest.
literally the Hunger Games over here.
Oh, that's so scary.
Yeah,
God.
yeah. I'd like to leave now. Anywhere.
Anywhere.
Yeah, I've always like dreamed of that, to have like just like a small thing, but I also know that there'd be backlash. Like, you didn't invite this person. I'm
That's
like,
true.
I'm not friends with that person, so
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of
Honestly,
things is like, it's not because I don't like them or I have anything against them. I just don't know them. Like, we don't
Yeah.
talk. We're not friends. Like, you know.
I
exactly.
forced myself to be friends with Bethany. I was like, I will be friends with her. Came into every one of her lives.
I love it.
I-
I love it. I'm here for it. Every time
I
I
also
see your name, I'm like,
jokes about lives.
It's so funny because this is the first time that I'm actually like talking to Bethany, but I feel like I've already talked to you. Like, it sounds weird.
Yes.
Like, from like because I'm friends with Maggie and Grace, and like when you were on their podcast, like, first of all, Maggie would like not shut up days before and after, and I was just like, I feel like I already know.
Well, it was so funny before we started recording. I mean, she was literally like, I just need a second. Can I just take? I was like,
No, Bethany was just like,
babe.
if Beth asked me to marry her, I would marry her right now. She was just like, I will marry her right now.
They
That's
were
like,
so
oh.
sweet. That was so much fun. I told them on the podcast live. It's recorded. And so
Yeah,
can't
I
take
listened
it
to
back.
all of it.
I can't take it back. I said, if you ever need a filler guest,
Yeah.
go. It was a lot of fun.
I know. I'm so happy for them.
They're so cool. I love them.
Yeah, I really hope that their podcast even grows more because they put so much effort and time into it, and they get amazing guests in.
They do. They work hard to get good guests.
They do. Yeah, they really just like check with their friends to see like who they can talk to, and it's always so genuine conversations, you know. So
Yeah.
I know they're like really booked out far, but I did get a spot.
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, I want to be on.
yeah,
So sweet. And they're so nice that they'll be like, yeah, absolutely, when
Yeah.
you're free.
They're like,
So-
let me put you in the schedule. I was like,
God, they're a lot of fun.
Also, Kayla, we're also going to Paris, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Paris is like one of my most favorite cities ever. Paris and Edinburgh. When everything opens up, those two are on top of my list.
Didn't you like live in Paris for a minute?
Yeah.
Or you were going to?
Yeah.
I was supposed to.
Yeah.
I moved and then moved back because Miss Rona said
Because
we ain't about that this year.
psych. Yeah, I want to go to Scotland really bad. Once
Oh
all
my gosh, yes. Yes.
Are you Scottish? Like, do you?
I am. I found out. So, funny story. I was told my whole life I was Irish.
Mhm.
We took a DNA test. I have no Irish in me. I'm only Scottish. Like
Cool.
50% Scottish. And I was like, I knew my Outlander genes would come through.
I
knew it.
love that.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so
That.
but the funny thing is I was always told Scottish folklore when I was younger. So like
Hmm.
I should have understood. I should have
Clicked.
clicked.
Yeah. Interesting.
I just wasn't paying attention. But I've always wanted to go to Scotland.
I want to, when I'm old and crippled and wrinkly and disgusting, I want to move to Scotland. I want 2 Highland cows, and I want to live in a cottage and do nothing. And
I want to live in a cottage
Little
and do
kids will come
nothing
up
now.
to your door and they'll be like, "That's where the witch lives."
exactly.
Life
And I'll be
goal.
like, I have
Life
no
goal.
idea what you're talking about.
Yes.
They'll be like, "Get off my lawn!"
Me and Caleb talked about that. We're gonna get a cottage. We're gonna move to a cottage together.
Yeah, it's kind of bad. Like if somebody was like, "Hey, I have this plot of land. You just want to go like right and just like live off the land?" Like even like right now, I would say like I would literally be like, I don't know school. I don't know college.
Bye.
I have no obligations. Like I like would if somebody did that. Beth and I have had this conversation too many times of being like, bet. Like bet.
Run.
Like if somebody said we're gonna go, I would go. That's like the
No
funny thing
hesitation.
about that. Like zero hesitation. As long as I can take my cat, a couple of my books, I will go to a cottage on the
Very
ends of
much
the
so,
earth.
I would
Fun
drop
fact.
everything and leave. I'd be like, "Bye."
Yes.
No one would know where I went.
Find me, IRS. You bet you
Yeah.
can.
They're like, we know where you're at. You're using your debit card." No, I'm not.
Wait, what?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
What's
Like,
a debit
oh,
card? What? I only know
yeah.
gold currency now. I only have
Period.
coins. I've reverted to the medieval
It's
ages.
the
You
barter
have your
system.
cottage, and then you have a cottage in the back, like in Akatar, with all of your jewels.
Yes.
And then
Oh.
I'll be the cereal, and I'll guard it for you.
I love it.
Oh
no,
my God.
Please, I love it.
Let's just start a little village
I
and
would love
book
to start a
talkers.
little witch village, but then people would say we're a cult, and then I would say yes to
And
scare
that's a
them off,
problem.
and then they would.
Yeah. I mean, as long as we're doing what we're doing and like nothing bad, you know?
As long as we're not like murdering people as a
Right?
cult.
Yeah.
There's
it's
nothing
a
wrong
murder
with cults.
here.
Definitely.
Yeah, like
I
we're
feel
fine.
With book talk. I'm in the book talk cult. It's
Sometimes
Exactly.
book talk
That's a
feels like a
cult.
cult.
It really
Sometimes it
does.
does.
We have also like a sick obsession with like just complete violence, like
Yeah.
people who are violent and aggressive and disgusting and like do horrible things. We're like, oh, my god, daddy, like what is
Yeah.
wrong with
Girl
that?
has an
I
attitude.
tell him I'll cry.
Hated on.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just like.
Where's the same energy?
I
Like,
know.
it's like we're just like, oh my god, he's a mass murder serial killer. Yes. Oh my gosh, this other character does the exact same thing, but because she's a she, we're
Yeah.
just like, oh.
I wish we would just be like, oh, she's a girl boss. You know what I mean?
Literally.
I wish we would
Like be like, Stan. Like it's
I know, even like one like women are villains. Like I kind of dig that because I mean I dig
yeah.
men who are villains. So I'm just like
Yeah.
I was like
well, and it's
to be the
it's
villain.
interesting. Yeah, it's interesting because I'm very, very queer. And so the energy people give toward really violent, aggressive men is the energy I give toward really violent, aggressive women.
Yeah.
So I get it. You know what I mean? I get it because I like everybody, whatever. So like, I do like both men and women. So I get it. But what I don't get is how people don't see how just like powerful and beautiful and like, why don't you see that same attractiveness in a female villain? Like, I don't understand. I don't get it. Like, when I first read Amarantha, I was like,
all right.
You're like, move over, Reese.
Like,
old news.
for me, like, I will like a villain if I can see their side of the story.
That's what it comes down
That's
to.
literally all it takes for me. I'm just like, okay,
Yes.
you convinced me.
very much, very much.
Where, like, even when we're reading about the heroes, they're not doing good stuff. They're killing people as well. So I'm just like, the villain is doing the same thing, just for a different cause. So yeah, I can like the villain as long as I see their side of the story as well.
Yeah.
Someone asked me the other day, they're like, who is your favorite villain in the Mortal, or who is your favorite character in the Mortal Instruments without a B? I was like, Sebastian Morgenstern, and they were like,
My
I'm sorry. Like, sorry.
Whenever we say Mortal Instruments, all I can think about is "You're my sister," he said. My sister. That's quote in Studio Ash.
I'm gonna do a video, like a series on my channel that's like reading middle school books I read in middle school, and like that's one of them. I literally read that in middle school.
Same.
And I read like the Ugly series in middle school, and I cannot wait to just be like, why did I read this?
Or did anyone read the Unwind series?
Yes.
I did
It
not.
was so okay.
Yo,
let me
no, I
pitch
did.
to you the Unwind series. Let me give you the pitch, okay? You are physically imperfect. So we take your body apart and give it to other people so they can be physically perfect. Hello, when you're 16. Hello?
That's literally the Ugly
unwinding
series
is.
too.
And they're like, we're not killing you. You're still alive through other. It's like, Brenda, my child's eyeball is in that man's skull.
Brenda.
What? That's insane. I read it and I was like, I get it.
Yeah.
Literally the Ugly series, when they're like, you're ugly the way you look. You have
That
to.
book series scarred me as a child.
I
like,
really liked it. What does that say about me?
I get why I am. I 100% loved it too, but like I get why I am the way I am now. I'm like, oh,
right. Yes.
I also was in love with Edward Cullen, so like, where was my taste?
Yes, very much so. Toby keeps coming over here. I think he wants to say hello.
Hi.
Hello. No, say hi.
Dan.
Look how like large he is.
Yeah.
He's such a large boy, and he's so good. He lets me do anything to him. Very sweet.
I love when he's in his Abraxas outfit. My favorite thing in the world.
I still have those wings, but I think they're in storage right now. I don't think I had room for them to bring them to college, which is dumb because they're like this big, but whatever.
Toby was like, oh, how unfortunate.
I know. He really hated them. They're actually for a medium-sized dog, but he's just very large. He's a very large man, so.
We love you, Toby. It's okay.
Me too. What a large man. Okay, he's gone now.
He said bye.
He said bye.
Yeah, I look at like the books I read in middle school, and I'm like, why was I allowed to read these? Like
the Matched series.
I don't remember anything from that series, but I remember reading them.
Same, Kayla. Same.
I also remember they were in like a desert cavern. Like I just remember these really high walls. That's it.
I remember the cover. It had a girl in a ball.
Yeah.
And as the books progressed, she broke out of the ball.
Yeah.
In the trilogy. The one scene that I remember is that she's like part of this rebellion, and I think they're in the desert, and she and her, like the guy of the series, are reunited, and that it made me just like ugly sob. I don't know why. But
Wait,
it was
was
just
it good?
that's all I really remember of it. I don't know why I don't remember anything.
I remember the
Did it even happen?
I remember the first book of that series, but I remember just immense rage reading the Delirium series.
I
Memories
loved the
unlocked.
Delirium series.
But it's not. There's no ending. It's just open.
Yes.
I
That
literally
was
made
my
a
first
dent in my wall.
introduction to spice in books, is because there's one scene that gets a little spicy, I believe, in the second book. Or am I making that up? I think
No, I'm pretty sure it is.
And so I remember reading it being like, I was in middle school and I was like, what?
I had that moment, but with the third book in the Shatter Me series.
I have not read it, but I've
I
heard
haven't
it's
read
very
that
good.
series either, but I feel like also like at a younger age, like you don't really understand it and you don't really enjoy it just because when I read, for instance, a book that I should not have read, but I did. I read 50 Shades of Grey.
There's so many
What a
people who
book.
did that.
What a book.
I think I was either a freshman or an 8th grader, and I did not enjoy it to say the least. Like I actually found it like so cringy, but now like I'm an adult and I enjoy reading about smut. But I'm just saying like it requires a certain maturity to be even able to enjoy this type of thing. Other than that, you're gonna find it disgusting and you're gonna find it repulsive, and you're gonna just feel like your entire innocence is ruined. Like I speak from experience.
Yeah, my book taste was a hot mess. Like I'm looking at my bookshelf now, and like I just really like everyone hates on the Selection series. I am like, I will die with that series. Bury me with it.
Die
Like,
on that hill.
yeah,
I know so
I'm
many
like
people who
Maxon
love that
Shittiver
series.
is here. Like,
Okay, I will say some. America annoyed me. So I don't remember
Yes.
anything from that book except that America was annoying. But I think I thought about that for every single character in that series. All I remember is dresses and annoying. Those are the only two words I
only read it for Maxon. I was like,
It's just I
Prince?
describe that just as like a comfort trash book. Like it's just like an easy series to read. It's an interesting world. It's a standard YA book. It's just
And I mean, sometimes that's what you want to read.
exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with it. Not every single book has to be like the greatest piece of literature on earth. Like sometimes you just need to read
It's
about.
okay to read a trash book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Oh my gosh, I've literally have not been like really reading my high fantasy books anymore. I've been just like reading smut that I literally get otherwise.
My Kindle Unlimited history is like staring at me right now.
Sorry. No, but seriously, I don't know what it is, but just reading trashy books sometimes is a great reprieve for the mind from reading about war strategy.
It's like what is it like? It's like a palate cleanser. That's
Yeah.
it's a palate cleanser.
It really is.
It's like I just read about someone getting their throat ripped out and magic, and people are dying left and right, but they're also fucking left and right. And now I just want to read about someone in a pretty dress who has to decide between two boys, and she's so conflicted.
Exactly.
It's very heteronormative, but
Yeah. But I've also been trying to read more sapphic books because I know that they're out there. It's just I guess I haven't seen like a lot of recommendation videos on it, which is why I haven't picked up so many. I picked up these Witches Don't Burn lately, and I'm trying to find more adult ones because that was a YA one, so I knew that I was kind of going into with like this cute like bicycle romance, and it was super cute. Now I want like something like sapphic, but like make it spicy.
yeah, I'm about to start reading The Song of Achilles, which isn't sapphic, but it's still queer literature.
Mhm.
And I'm really excited about it because I heard so many great tragic, and like I know that, I mean, like it's a Greek tragedy, right? Like,
Yeah.
so you know the ending of the book before you read it. But I'm really scared to read it because
Same. I still haven't read it. I have it, but I haven't. I'm gonna read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which I heard is sapphic, and everyone said like it's a great like break for the mind. So I'm excited for that because I just finished up with An Ember in the Ashes series, and I feel dead. Like I'm okay, but I cry myself to sleep.
That's a mood. That is a
I
mood.
haven't read any of those, like none of those books, but I did go to her signing just because I was like, I like have not read yours or Renee Audier's books, but I will sit here and listen to you talk.
It's so funny. I literally, Asaba probably kind of knows me from my annoying comments at this point. Because I literally, every single one of her TikTok videos, I comment, and I know that I've annoyed Adam Silver to a point where he knows me now. That's what, my biggest flex is that Penguin Teen Adam Silver know me.
I love that.
is the Red Queen YA question mark?
Yes.
I
Yes.
haven't read it.
I haven't read it still. Should I read
He
it?
has it's
Trash for it. I love it so much, but I love the main like villain in it. Like
yeah.
my best friend's little sisters has my copies right now. She's reading them, and she like was so mad at me. She was like, "How do you love him?" Like burst into my room.
You're like, because I have problems.
Yeah, literally. I was like, You know me. You know me.
Victoria's releasing a new book that comes out in May.
Yeah.
It may be one of my favorite reads of this year.
Ooh, I'm excited.
When I say it's pretty good, and it has a female character who is like a villain, but like rightfully so, and it is amazing.
I love those type of villains. Villains with a cause. I'm just
villains with a cause. Get me. That's what I'm planning to create. Spoiler alert for my book that's not written yet. That's what I want my book to be, is to be the villain with the cause, and like the main character becomes the villain. So
yes, we need more books like that.
Yes, please. Yes, please. That like literally.
Don't look at Scottish folklore. Which honestly, Scottish folklore started as an idea from Beth's live stream. We were like talking in the live stream, and she was like, "What if Nesta was the main character of the novel?" I was like, "What if Nesta wasn't the main character of a novel?"
Allison was like, "Oh no!"
Literally that whole night, I was like, "Give me something." And then
I remember us texting about this. I remember you being like, "My main character is going to be inspired off of Nesta Archeron."
Mm-hmm. And
I think we need more female characters who hate everyone and are allowed.
I agree. We need to normalize that. Can we normalize
it? And I cannot wait until people love her, and then I'll be like, "She's inspired by Nesta," and then just mic drop off of it.
Runs out of the room.
3 seconds later, it's gonna be like, you'll just everything's on fire. Yeah.
You'll be at like Bookcon, I'll like whisper into the mic, and just like you'll see me just running,
run away.
I also I have a character that's like she's not inspired from Nesta, but I think in Aquar they'll definitely like have these common grounds that they do have. But I'm so excited because I get to kind of like, you know, make sure that she keeps her powers and such. So yeah.
I would love to just point that out to Sarah and see if she even knows that she's doing it.
Yeah, because it like again,
like ask the question.
Yeah.
We all
like I don't want to. Sorry, Mel. I totally interrupted you.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I don't want to put her in a position that makes her uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But I also, the only way you can ask an author a question like that is by going to a live event.
Yeah.
Going to the mic. But also, I feel like that I don't want to make her feel uncomfortable or like put her like in a position that like I don't want to do that. But I just want to know if she's aware that she's doing that, and if it's I just have questions.
No, I completely agree, because a lot of time people don't realize that they do it just because we all have internalized misogyny as well as kind of internalized racism, internalized homophobia.
Yeah.
The way that we check these things are usually through conversations and discussions, which she seems to not be having because she is isolated.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about being in a book community. It kind of, you know, as a participant in these discussions, it has taught me so much. And for my book, I'm definitely going to get sensitivity readers because I do have diversity. So I want to make sure I'm not offending anyone with them. So I'm very, very excited when that happens.
No, yeah, totally. And I think too that like we were kind of saying, like, it's irresponsible of her to be, you know, isolated like she is. And I was having a conversation with someone where if she were smaller, you know, it would still suck that that's how she's representing people, but it wouldn't be harming.
Yeah, because no one really is like giving it that much attention, so it won't be kind of normalized or internalized the way it is being right now. Because like we were saying, a lot of people are like starting to plagiarize ACTAR, and that includes its problematic messages, like kind of this false portrayal of feminism, false like portrayal of people of color, like this ambiguous language when it comes to describing race and ethnicity, as well as just horrible like rep when it comes to like the LGBTQ plus community. So yeah.
It always drives me insane that like people are like, Reese is a feminist. I'm like, where?
No, he's not.
Maybe not.
He's not a feminist.
Like what? I'm like, it drives me so like I'm like none of them are. Like
none of them are, yeah.
Yeah, none of them are.
Nesta was. Akawar, I want to say Nesta was a feminist. In Akasif, I can.
Yeah.
She was a feminist until like 3/4 of the way through the book.
Yeah, I agree.
And then all of a sudden she changed her pelvis to give Cassian children. And
I was just like, what? I was like, what?
Yeah. She was like, let me just do a little biology. It's fine.
I know. And it's like, how do you know enough about your body to do that? Like, it's not like you can be like, dear Magic, please make my pelvis good. Like
She was like, "Hey, got it.
right, exactly.
Hey God, I need.
Hey,
Hey mother, I need you.
There's lots of
Can you help
logistical
me?"
things that don't make sense.
She
about
like
that.
looks across the table to Elaine. She's like, "Oh shoot, sorry, bro."
Right, she's like, oh my god, you needed a new pelvis too, didn't you?
I'll just go out to the garden and get one.
But I think we need to also kind of normalize, like in books, because this also happens in real life. Every woman does not need to get married and have.
Yeah.
Like as a woman, I don't want that. Like that's not the type of life that I want to lead for myself. That's not to say that's something that I look down upon. I think it's very strong and it's definitely a choice, but it's a choice. It's a personal preference, and not everyone has those. And I think it's sometimes a violation of characters and their established patterns when authors kind of force it upon them. And I think that was kind of the case with Nessa, because we see that she is her own person. She belongs to no one. So it just kind of seems very forced. Same with Amryn. I felt like Amryn would always be single. So it's kind of weird that she's like writing variant.
That was so unnecessary.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't
That
even
was
need to
so
be
unnecessary. Like you just wanted a scene where they fucked. That's what you.
Yeah,
literally.
basically.
Yeah.
Same with Loki. Okay, I love Manon and Dorian just because I don't think anyone who likes them is straight, right?
Period, yes.
I just want to get there, but yeah. But I also think Manon.
Into my own sexuality.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I saw a video about this and I was like. But I think Manon would also have been great single.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, and I also, some people are really mad that they didn't end up together, but I really love that they ended this series with them going their separate ways and not being like, we need to depend on each other and we need to rule together. Like, I really enjoyed that they had them like, we had a great time, we were kind of friends with benefits, and now we're not. And
Well, they're just vibing on their own.
right,
Like
I care about you. You're a great person. Bye. Like, I
Manon
like
has
that.
a Broxos. She don't need no one.
No, she does not. She really doesn't.
Yeah, I always see that. I was really surprised that Nesta like accepted the mating bond so quickly. Like
After
so quickly.
no effort on Cassian's part.
Like they had that fight by the like lake area.
And that was also parallel with Akmath. That was the exact same thing with that. Yeah.
Goes into the blood right, which is actually just the Hunger Games.
Period.
Yeah,
Yeah,
real.
really.
And then she's on the mountain and there's like,
She's
my
like,
mate.
my mate taught me well. It's like, okay, Brenda. That's
She's
okay.
like,
Good for you.
she's like, hand me a bike, hold on.
Yeah,
And
she's
we like walks out.
Is everybody here? Is everybody present? Okay.
It was so dramatic.
Well, it's like she wasn't thinking about Cassian. She was thinking about surviving. Is what she was thinking about. So the fact that that was the moment when she would come on now. Brenda.
And then Cassian comes in all possessed.
That was so.
And then it's like resolved in half a page. It's just like
Yeah.
we're gonna like put this, but like it's not.
And I
that
hate
And
how
then it was very rushed. Like if she wanted to take this route, she should have added like maybe 100 more pages.
yeah, commit or quit, babe.
Yeah, like, and I'm just like again, like it, like I just feel like it didn't make sense. Just because I feel like Nessa would have been with Cassian, but it definitely would not have been as sudden as all of this ended up happening. And I feel like again, like I just feel like Sarah was just really horny and she wanted to write a spicy book, and that Loki, just messed with the characters and just like I felt like she didn't honor who she had established, because again, we talked a lot about character inconsistencies for all of them, not just Nesta and Cassian.
I don't know who I told this to, but I was like, I feel like I know way too much about SJM's bedroom activities now after this. I was like,
Nah,
No, but I
never look her in the eye again.
never.
I joined Sergey Mass's live that she had with Steph lately, like after AXIF, and they're kind of comfortable talking about it because Josh was like, yeah, whenever I read smut scenes, I'm like, this sounds familiar. And I'm just like,
He said that?
Oh no. Oh no.
And Loki made a sexual remark at the very end of the live. I'm still not fully understanding it, and I don't think I
is recent. So he is recent.
Yeah,
He's
I-
like,
Okay. No, I understood now. So he is recent. Got it.
yeah.
but he's also Cassian probably.
Yeah,
He's,
like Sergey Mass is like also said that they're more like Nesta than Cassian. Yeah.
I could never look her in the eye, and I feel like if I looked her in the eye one day, I'd be like, So how's your headboard doing?
Literally, when he was like, hold on tight, I was like, oh my. Some people are like, that's so hot. I'm like, no, it's not.
I would be like,
To what?
what did you just say to me?
It's a hold on tight to what? This cup? What am I supposed to hold on tight to?
How do Sergey Mass's like friends and family talk to her?
Oh, I know. Like I write like a kissing scene, and I'm like, Mom, don't look at that. Like,
don't read the book. Don't read the book.
I'm like, don't read the book. It's
I'm
fine.
already like uncomfortable with my parents reading my like YA books. I was just like, I don't know how I'd be feeling about them reading like this book.
Her mom's like, wow.
Her dad is reading it. I'm okay with my mom reading it, but she was like, my dad is reading it, and I'm freaking out. And I'm like, yeah, honestly, I'd be freaked out if my dad was reading something like that.
Like, she's so lucky she's gonna have signings for this book.
Literally, so lucky.
She planned that. She was like, I know, I can see
she was
Corona.
like,
I'm
COVID's
delayed as
coming,
well.
I'm gonna write the dirtiest book I've ever written, and no one is gonna have to look at me in the eye for it. No.
I'm like, oh no. Like, could you imagine being like her agent or her editor getting that? And she's like, yeah, it's a little dirty. And then you're in like your office at 2 a.m. like, who did I sign? I didn't sign up for this life.
I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah.
Literally, some of the stuff that would be said in the moments, I was like, ugh.
Yeah, and the one scene that there's any emotional connection between the two of them when he gives her the whatever she calls it, like a soundifogram or something stupid.
Oh yeah, the music ball.
The egg, yeah. That's the one scene that there was any emotional growth or connection between either of them.
Yeah, I also kind of enjoyed the scene at the mountain where Nesta cries and Cassian holds her. I wish that, like, I know that, like, I feel like there were I do have some critiques of it, but I think that was just one of the only scenes that we can kind of be like, that was kind of emotional and not.
I think it had really good potential. I think it was another like dump moment where like Nesta would never just be like, here are all of my emotions at once. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it definitely was not gradual, which doesn't make sense because of how prideful and just kind of withdrawn Nesta is.
It felt very much like the moment that we discussed earlier where the three of them are just like, here's all of my trauma before we climb.
Yeah.
It felt very much like that for me, I guess it did.
No,
but I do think that was the right way to go about that scene.
Yeah.
In essence,
I agree.
it was just bad execution.
Yeah,
I
no, I
honestly
agree.
feel like this book was a first draft, and she was like, I'm done. Like, I don't
Weird.
I don't feel like,
yeah.
Like,
I agree.
feel like it was like there were scenes that should have happened later in the book that happened at the beginning, and the beginning should have happened later.
Yes.
Like, I don't feel like this was like flushed out. Like, she was like, here you go, I'm done.
Yeah, which doesn't make sense because she said that she's been working on this for a while, and then I was like, why are there so many plot holes? And it feels very rushed.
Yes.
And again, I don't know how much her like publication house or if they're interfering at all. But I was like, I don't know, with the way that the route that she decided to take, I feel like it needed to be twice its length for it to be organic. And it didn't feel very organic. Like it felt like just a dump of everything.
I feel like this book she could have made into like a two-parter. So she could have had A Court of Silver Flames and then another book as well that was more fleshed out.
It literally could have been a trilogy. Like,
yeah, why didn't you leave ACOTAR over in the YA? You make a new adult or adult book.
Oh, that would have been nice. Yeah.
And then, because honestly, when I got this, I was like, oh, okay, it's one book. But then when I got to the end, I was like, there's still so many problems here. And I haven't been told that this is going to be resolved. And, like, also, our big bad, not really that scary.
No, Koshki in the lake.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Like
You
a bubble bath.
Koshki. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Literally.
I also hated how Allen, who was supposedly the big bad evil queen, Nesta was just like, which again, canonically is an attest to how powerful she is.
Yeah.
But I just hated how like this big what's the word I'm looking for? Like the climactic moment was so lackluster because we knew nothing about Allen. We knew nothing about the trope. I mean, like all of these things were just introduced in this book, and all of a sudden it's supposed to be high stakes. Like, no, we don't know anything. Like, we're not. This isn't high stakes at all. You know?
Yeah, I think Sarah J. Maas is not that great when it comes to plot and her villains. I feel like she's better with
Throne
like
of Glass was phenomenal for plot.
I did like, yeah, Throne of Glass. I feel like I just want to know, because it feels like Throne of Glass was so well, but she wrote ACOTAR later, so it doesn't make sense.
It should be better.
Yeah,
That's
it's
what
reverse
I would think.
more. She started that, like, she had that whole entire series plotted out before it was ever like signed for an 8-book deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, so I always thought that ACOTAR was supposed to be a standalone, and then when it got super popular, that's when they added the second and third book.
That's what I think. I think that is
because the
absolutely
ending
would
of
make
the book
sense.
is just a
Yep.
closed ending.
I think that's absolutely true.
And
But
I think
when I say that, or when anyone says that, people will be like, "Oh, but Reese looked back at her and saw that they were mates," and it's like that can be explained by 5 million different things.
Yeah.
But she could also have, when they realized the hype around it, went back and changed that. That could have not been in the
It
first.
could be a reprint, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
she
true.
could have changed that when it got super
Because
popular.
it's what, 3 sentences?
Yeah.
It's literally like a
That's
paragraph
reprint, yeah.
of Reese being like, my mate. But I like always wanted to be in like a fly on the wall in the room when he bursts into Polaris and Moore's like pouring the ride, and she's like, my mate.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
Like, good to
it's
see you
my
too. It's
line
been
today.
50 years. Like,
Yeah,
hello.
literally, they're just vibing, and he comes in freaking out.
What a guy.
Yeah,
Oh, Reese.
yeah. I just, it's a shit show, a series right now.
Yeah.
I hate to be mean about it, but it really,
It's like a reality TV show.
It is. This is
That's
like
what
the
it's been like.
Kardashians, yeah.
Yeah. And there's so much drama in the books themselves, like within the sisters, the entire, like, it's just so dramatic.
The Feyre, Elaine, and Nesta are Chloe, Kim, and Courtney, and you can't tell me that they're not.
Yes.
Oh, definitely. I totally see it.
you got Kim and Kylie.
Kim and
Somewhere.
Kylie are, I want to say, Reese and Cassian. And
I could see
Asriel and
it.
Chris.
Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah.
Classic.
And then you have like the children.
Children, yeah, right.
All the High Lords are Reese's children.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if Sarah J. Maas is gonna kind of keep the series going to where she writes about their children.
I hope to good Lord not.
Listen,
That'd
Nick,
be long. That'd be so long.
I hated that name when they were like Nyx. I was like, you could have chosen a better name.
Like,
That's so funny.
try.
I remember
Just try
reading
a
that in the
little harder.
comments. In the comments, someone was like, "How do we feel about like the name being from like
A makeup brand?
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Said that in the comments section, and I was like, do I like shut out that comments? But I was like, we were already critiquing so much. I was like, maybe not.
I literally, like, when that happened, I was like, so you just chose a random name that meant night, didn't you? But you got your parents who are Feyre and Rhysand. Like, Nyx. But also, so my question is, does the power of the High Lord automatically go to Nyx? Or if they have another kid, could it go to
How's
that?
that gonna work?
Well, the
But it
power
jumps
chooses
around.
who it goes to, so
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be like by blood. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
And
that's
also, someone said something. I wish I remember who told me this. Or who I listened to say it. Oh, I feel so bad that I don't remember. Oh, it was Emma. Well, I don't remember her ad off the top of my head, but she was like, Reese and Feyre both canonically died. So who did the power go to when Reese died? Because the power transfers as soon as the other High Lord dies.
Automatically?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I thought Feyre was just on the brink of death.
Wait, what?
The
That's wild.
High Lord power, right, that every High Lord gets is like passed on to the next High Lord, is passed on after the High Lord dies.
Yeah.
So who got the High Lord power when Reese died?
Broke that rule.
I know.
I wonder if Sarah J. Maas kept up with that rule or not. I am kind of.
That's the thing.
I guess I didn't see that, where I thought that Feyre died, but I didn't think it had taken Reese yet. That's what my understanding was. But I guess maybe he did die automatically.
In the cauldron, Reese died.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, at the end.
Oh, even like
Wait.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
at the end
no,
of
Oh,
Mr.
I'm talking
Fury.
about the baby time. I was like,
Yeah,
I
I
was
No,
was
I was
talking
talking
baby
about
time
that
too, and
in
now I
Mr.
just
Fury.
remembered about the cauldron. Yeah.
At the end of Mr. Fury, Reese canonically dies.
Yeah.
And they'll have to bring him back. So who did the power go to when Reese died?
Amber's here like,
Well, that Sarah broke. I feel like
It
Sarah-
has to be.
I'm sure it's
because
never
they
gonna
all
be
put one of the kernels or whatever. I envision them as like popcorn kernels, just like plopping into him. Like, yeah, no, because like I saw someone talking about that, how Nyx is gonna get the power, and I was like, what if Sarah fixed her wrongs and Feyre had another kid, but it was a daughter, and
they give it to the girl.
They give it to the
I
girl.
would be here for that.
I think one of my like biggest issues with ACOTAR is I hate how it's almost portrayed as a feminist book when there's so much misogyny in it.
So much misogyny.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, just because, and it's like you don't even like need to analyze it. It's very surface
It's
level.
very
Oh,
yeah. You don't
Yeah.
have to dig deep.
I thought for a moment when we were talking about the Court of Nightmares that Nesta was going to like take out Moore's dad and like become the ruler of the Court of Nightmares.
That's
And
what I
That's
thought.
what I
too.
was
I was so
I was
ready.
hoping that was gonna happen.
It's like,
That's where she belongs. I mean, like, she doesn't belong in the Night Court. She doesn't belong in any other court or the human land.
No.
She
Yeah.
belongs in the Court of Nightmares, being
I
evil and
completely
fun.
agree.
imagine that dress she would sit on that throne in.
Period.
Again,
Period.
Fabulous.
like portrayed as like this kind of like icon of independence and power and potential. It doesn't make sense to me that she's now going to be a housewife with.
Yes.
Her new uterus.
Literally.
over it, but I
That's the slogan. Nesta has a new uterus.
I guess. Dang.
new uterus, new person.
Also, that whole thing about like she was in Illyrian form when we conceived.
Oh, she's
Hello?
talking about the time in the sky.
Hello? Yeah, that was weird as heck.
Yeah, I did not
I didn't
appreciate that.
understand I was like, Illyrian form? What do you mean Illyrian form? Like,
I
she
also
just,
hated how casually the Bat Boys talked about sex with the women without the
Yep.
women around.
Yep.
I really didn't like that.
Yes.
I really hated that. Particularly how Reese spoke about sex
Yes.
with Farah when Farah was not around.
Yes.
That felt gross.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, no, throughout this book, I honestly was triggered a little bit by the volatile language they use when it comes to sex, especially like your own body and your
They're
choice.
frat boys. I mean, they talk.
They
like frat
are.
boys.
They really are frat boys.
Yeah, it's
the
gross.
night court is a frat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Literally.
Kind of like the stuff that Amryn says. And again, like I was really like I used to really like Amryn, and this book I was like, I just don't like the stuff that she said honestly disgusted me.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
But I like she was also like the only powerful woman, and now she has no powers. So
So she's another example. Thank you. I forgot.
Yeah.
Too. So now it's Nesta, Aelin, Bryce, Amryn, and Farah. Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah, she,
five. That's like literally so
It's
many.
5.
she only has the surface level of her powers now because her eyes glow.
Yeah,
Like, wow.
cool magic trick, I guess.
You make a rule and you break it. That's another.
I
thing.
saw this like really funny meme, and it was like, I think it's canon that Feyre is actually not that great of a painter. So like all the portraits around
Yes.
are like, stick figures, and I was like,
Yes.
the one in Reese's office. That was weird. He was like, my painting, and I was like,
What is it again?
I think it's of Feyre.
Oh, like a self-portrait.
Yeah, I'm like, could you imagine?
No, I don't
And
think
Feyre's over there, like,
as a fandom we have accepted that Feyre is not a good painter.
Yes.
I don't know how this happens, but yeah.
I know we made fun of it in Keeping Up with the Courts.
We have.
Yep.
How the idea spread. That might have been that.
Because it's hilarious. It's such a funny idea.
so funny. Because like, could you imagine just like finger paintings in like the hallway? I felt so bad for Nesta when she was like, "There's none of me," and I was like, "Do you want a finger
That
paint?"
hurt. But like, yeah.
Like she was like, "Even my dad's in here."
Which their dad, kind of a. I mean, he let them starve too, and he was the one who was supposed to take care of them.
I
Like,
know.
Why is everyone mad at Nesta when the literal parental figure is the one who was not taking care of them?
Literally.
Hello? And then you
Just
like have some
hello?
ships with your names on them. That would have been really helpful about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
If you had all these
Yeah.
resources on the continents, you should have made that trek 10 years ago and we would have been fine and none of this would have happened.
Yeah.
Literally, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like part of it is that there's so many plot holes and
So many.
yeah, like no, there's again, this book has taught me so much about writing, about note taking and
Yes.
outlining, etc.
I like also felt like it was weird that they went and visited his grave and like Nesta was like,
I don't understand why Nesta was saying, I'm sorry, I wasn't worthy
I
of
know.
you. I was like, girl, like all he did was bring some ships. Before that, he was a horrible father. Like you had every right to be angry. Maybe like I did not agree with necessarily some of your behavior. But with that being said, like I don't like their father has not in any shape or form like redeemed themselves past those ships. He hasn't done anything else. And he's the big reason why there's a drift between sisters.
well,
Because-
he didn't even protect. Yeah, he didn't even protect her when, like, their mother was alive.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm just like, again, like that's where I think I just see misogyny where men are just easily let off the hook and they're redeemed and, women just kind of keep on like
Failing no matter what
Yeah.
they do. Yeah.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
Jesus.
The more we talk.
Yes.
I'm like, the more I talk, the more angry I get at the freaking book. I'm like,
Yes.
I will say that I truly enjoyed, I think, like the first half of this book, and then it went. Once I saw where it was going, I was like,
I agree. Yeah.
Yes.
I was like, oh no.
like when I first started, like I was just like, I don't want to see anything negative. I was like 200 pages in, and I was like, I am enjoying this. Let me enjoy this.
Yeah.
And
I enjoyed it the very first time I read it, and then as I've been reading it more, I'm like, oh, that's an issue. That's an issue. Here's another issue.
enjoy the book and you don't think about it, so you do, and then you're just like, I personally didn't like. I right off the bat after like the first 300 400 pages, I was like, we'll be back.
Sorry.
Love that, literally love that so much. So I was like,
Sorry. He likes to sit on the chair I have this resting on. He'll apologize for interrupting you.
yeah, but yeah, that was all I was saying.
I definitely, I forgot what I was gonna say. It'll come back to me.
I'm sorry.
Trying to think what I was. I don't remember. What were you saying, Melissa?
That's a great question. I love we all just like lost the thread of the conversation.
Where'd it go? With Toby.
Just kind of like our just like first impression of AXA versus like kind of our rereads and thinking about it. Yeah, so like at first maybe you were kind of like gaslighted into liking the book, and then you think about it and you're just like, whoop.
Yeah, I definitely was that. There are so many moments that this is what I was gonna say. Azriel. I feel like Azriel was just put in chaperone just to be put in the book.
Yeah.
And he was the worst chaperone there ever was.
Yeah. There was that one scene and that was it. Yeah, that he was.
And then at Solstice.
Yeah, I wish that we saw more of him and Nesta becoming friends, just because I think it was kind of big of him to get her present and for Nesta to hug Azriel. And I wish that we saw a better development between them, like maybe a heart-to-heart conversation to see the sudden connection between them, because it felt very sudden. Like it didn't feel very developed at all.
Yes.
Yeah. I also just like the whole thing with Azriel and Nesta and Cassian, I was like, that was a threesome scene and that was taken out. And I was like, well, if you left all of this in, why did you take that out?
I know. I could have done without some of the other scenes, and if this was, I was like, that's what you decided to take out.
Yeah, but then maybe she was like, I'm taking this out because I want the Gwen thing to be a thing.
Okay, I feel like it would have been kind of awkward considering there's like kind of this thing at the moment between Azriel and Elaine, Nesta being like,
she don't care. She's like,
I feel like that would have been awkward, and I don't think that would have been well thought out if that did actually happen.
It was also
I didn't want it to happen, so because I'm just a whore, but
I want to know what Reese was doing when he was just standing at the stairwell, like above them. I like pictured there be like a walkway, and he was just like standing over them, like watching them like kiss. And I was like, what were you doing? Were you like getting up to get a glass of
Well,
water.
listen, he had no right to do what he did because
No.
that's exactly what he did with Farrah. So come get y'all juice. Like,
Yeah. He's like, but she was actually my mate, so it makes a difference. Yeah. Literally, when
Brenda.
that happened and he
Yeah.
like mind spoke, and I was like, sir? If I was Elaine, I would have been pissed.
I
Yeah.
would have too. I wouldn't have. If I was Elaine, I wouldn't have pulled away. I would have been like, I don't care about your brother. I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
I don't know why Resan has started like Fair kind of too. Well, I don't know why they're just inserting themselves into other people's businesses.
Yes.
They're
And that is
bored.
the tea.
Like you all were doing so well in ACMUF when you were just concentrated on each other. Can you go back to that?
Oh, they're plenty concentrated on each other. Let's not get into it.
They're just bored. They don't have the cereal around to spill all the tea, so
I
they gotta
know,
get
they
it
need to figure out
themselves.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying it's like a reality TV show, literally.
I just
It
was
is.
like, why is this? I hate that. This is what really bothered me, that they are so insistent that she be with Lucian,
Mhm.
which no hate against Lucian. I have a love for Lucian, but
Mhm.
they're so insistent in her being with him. And then Reese goes, if you, I think this was in it, or maybe it was another book they mentioned it. If you want to be with her, you'll have to like start a war between courts or like have like a blood fight. I'm like, what about Elaine's choice? Like,
Yeah, but Reese always gives everyone a choice. It's always your choice to Reese.
Yeah.
It's Reese.
but except for them.
except for that and this other thing and this other thing. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, there's a lot of exceptions to
Yeah.
that.
Again, you make a rule
But
and you
it's
break.
your choice.
But it's always your choice. He's so dramatic, and for what? And for what?
You know what I realized with Avatar and like so many other and like real world too. If men have one thing, it's the audacity.
Period.
Yeah.
Like,
Continually.
I
Yeah.
thought we were gonna get a lot more of the priestesses too.
Yeah.
And
I
we
love
literally
this.
only
I
got
love that.
Clotho and the mean one, and I was like, why is she even here? She's just mean. And poor Gwen, like she
Poor
just
Gwen.
Oh,
She
Gwen
deserves
so
better.
sweet. Like I just wanna like she's like a cinnamon roll, if that makes sense.
Yeah. She deserves better.
Yeah, I just want to give her a hug. I'm just like, are you
I was surprised they let Nesta in the library because I feel like none of them wanted her there at first.
I
Like
know.
they were
Well, and
all
also it's
scared
like-
of her.
Right. And it's also like she fits in. You know what I mean? Like she fits in.
She does.
But I just don't I guess they're all nonviolent too, so there's that too. But
They were just terrified of her, just like staring at her.
yeah, right, yeah. Which if I was Nessa, I'd be like, I feel weird now. You know?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I like didn't like I just couldn't with
The book. The whole thing.
my brain is just like running. I'm like, where'd it go?
Wait, so Beth, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
If you did kind of like when you do change your account, what cosplays would you do? Like, would you do other books, other fandoms?
Yes, I do. I want to do more Scarlet content, which always flaps, but I'm on this new like self tirade of like, do it for you kind of a thing. So I also want to do stuff from like shows, like TV shows and movies. Like I've always wanted to do a Devil Wears Prada. I've always wanted and animes too. I've always wanted to do some anime stuff.
Anime community
people have-
is so big on TikTok. It's literally huge. Anime TikTok is huge.
Yes,
It's
it's
a big
huge.
community.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, and I've also wanted to do. People have been asking for more witchy content, so
Oh, yeah.
I will deliver.
We love that.
I'm like, I want more witchy content.
I also like
I
not
don't know anything, but I like it.
no pressure, but like,
right.
here's my hand.
Yeah. So I don't know stuff like that, and Lizzie Smith on TikTok,
Yeah.
how she just makes like videos about books, not like
Yeah.
specific books.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to kind of venture into stuff like that too.
Yeah.
So so she does like the enemies to lovers kind of thing. I
Mhm.
really wanted to do the same kind of thing, but with friends to lovers, because that's my favorite
that's
trope
so
in the
cute.
world.
No,
So
I-
if you steal my idea, I'll feel bad about it.
Yeah, I literally love Lizzie's content so much, and I would
Yeah.
love to see more people kind of doing content like that. And I think she keeps like a very positive space on her page as well, which I love because we need more of that. We need more of that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my laptop's low-key about to die.
Yeah,
Should
I
I?
have 8% left.
Yeah, I think we've been on for almost 4 hours, so
I know.
talking about all of Akatar.
This was
Somebody
fun.
has
This
this
was a lot
skill
of fun.
tonight. This is so fun. Yeah.
I hope everyone enjoyed the tea. We were
Yeah.
like our own set of cereals today.
We are.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed. I am going to end that broadcast now.
Yay, bye.